Welcome. Tonight's class was dedicated by Elchanan Shagalov and his children. And this is in honor of his new nephew, grandnephew, who had his bris today. Brand new baby boy who got the name Shneir Zalman, merited such a holy name. Obviously, the name Shneir Zalman, I don't know who he's named after, but maybe the grandfather, who eventually is named after the Alter Rebbe, right? That's where the Shneir Zalman comes from. Am I correct? So it's appropriate that we learn for this little baby boy on the first day that he has his name from the teachings of Reb Shneir Zalman. This is perfect. So I want to give a mazel tov to his parents, Levi Yitzchak and Chaya Sarah Tzeitlin, and to the grandparents, Yosef Yitzchak, and his wife, Gittel Rachel, Shagalov, the great-grandmother, Esther Shendel, how am I supposed to know? Esther Shendel, Shagalov. May the Eibishter bench them all with a lot of nachas, a lot of lichtige Chassidische, Yiddish nachas, beautiful nachas. So we're going to learn. So the good news is that just like I didn't know all the details of the sponsorship, and yet somehow I managed, in the same way, I have no clue what I'm going to teach you tonight, and with the Eibishter's help, I'm going to manage. Okay, so here we are. We're going to learn holy words that I can tell you. And hopefully within these holy words, the divine light, the godly light, that's the soul of these words, will come down and will manifest. And we will have a lot of illumination, godly illumination. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the surprise that's going to happen when we learn this mimer. Okay, so as we learn, let me tell you what we're learning. In Sefer Torah Or, we're winding down. I think I counted last week, Thursday night. There's 19 discourses left in the entire book of Torah Or that I didn't teach yet. So I'm very excited. Only 19 discourses, Daron, that we haven't learned yet. You started coming just recently to the class. So you missed 10 years, 15 years. We went through the whole book. You're lucky. Yeah, but I need this also. Let's bathe it. Cool. Yeah. So you're lucky that you come to the Maimarim that are like the leftover, meaning when I say leftover, it means the hard ones that I leave over to the end. All the ones that are easier to understand and learn, we learned earlier on. 19 left. That's exciting. 19 left. And a few of them are in Megillas Esther. So I plan on actually doing that probably the next few weeks. We should have Purim already the whole time. So maybe for 3-4 weeks we're going to be learning about Purim every week. We're learning the Maimarim there. I want to finish up the Maimarim we didn't teach. Any case, this Maimer we're learning today is, I made an introduction like about 100 times recently, that it's a Biur on another Maimer. And based on the idea that I mentioned so many times, that the Alter Rebbe would say a Maimer, and then he would give an explanation on the Maimer, and the explanation is much harder than the Maimer. That's the way the rule is. So the explanation is always far more Kabbalistic. So I'm trying to scare you before we learn. In any case, this is a Biur on a Maimer. It's a very Geshmaka Biur on a very Geshmaka Maimer. If you can say that about every Maimer is Geshmak. What is it talking about? It's talking about one of the unique Big Day Kahuna. This week is Parshas Tetzaveh. So we learn about Big Day Kahuna. The Big Day Kahuna are the clothing that the Kohen wore. And we know there are the two types of Kohens, two types of priests. There's the ordinary priest, and then there is the extraordinary priest, the Kohen Gadol. So the ordinary priest, the ordinary Kohen, wears 4 garments. The Kohen Gadol wears 8 garments. One of the 8 garments that he wears is a tzitz. A tzitz is a plate, a gold plate that goes on his forehead. This mimer comes to explain the spiritual dynamics of the tzitz. What's the tzitz all about? And why by the tzitz, the mimer focuses very much on why by the tzitz is the only one of the garments where it says that Moshe should make it. By other ones, it was made by the Chachmei Lev, by the wise people. But here it says va'asitza, va'asitza you should make. So Hashem is commanding Moshe to make the tzitz. So the tzitz was a garment that Moshe Rabbeinu had to make for Aaron. Obviously, like the beauty of all Maimarim, is that the Maimarim take the story out from the physical meaning. It completely breaks open the physical. Why is the door locked downstairs? Maybe it got locked when someone came in. Shkoyach, Ali, check. And if it turned the knob in the bottom, if it's shkoyach. So what the Alter Rebbe does is that he undresses the pasuk from its physical encasement, and when you take it out of its physical encasement, you can find its application at all times. In the physical meaning, it had its application sometimes only at a certain time in history. Like making the garments was something we did in the Mishkan back then, and Be'ez Hashem we're going to do it very soon for the third temple. Actually, they did it already. There was the temple, what do they call it? Temple Institute, where they made already the Kalim, and maybe they made the Begadim also. But in the spiritual meaning, in the spiritual dynamics, the big day kahuna are something that apply today in our avoda. So we're going to figure out what does it mean, the tzitz, in our service to Hashem. And why is it that Aaron wears it, but Moshe makes it? In other words, the tzitz is a garment of Aaron, but even though it's Aaron the one who wears the tzitz, now the reason why a person has clothing, in addition to modesty and tznius, clothing also brings out the person. A person is able to express themselves through their clothing. That's why we always have, you can tell a lot about a person from the clothing they wear. And if you have a certain particular profession, you wear a certain kind of clothing that expresses and it conveys what you're all about. So if you show up to someone's house and you're the plumber, you're wearing plumber clothing. If you show up and you're the mailman, you're dressed like a mailman or a mail lady or whatever. And the same as everything. So right, the pilot wears a pilot suit, and the firemen wear the fire suit. So if Aaron is a Kohen, and the Kohen's job is to serve God, but much more than that, the Kohen's job is to kindle the souls of the Jewish people. The Kohen turns on the menorah. The Kohen's job is to inflame the Jewish souls, to fire us up with passion, fervor, energy, love for Hashem. So his clothing of the Kohen helps the Kohen actualize his and enable and express his potential and his ability to do his job. So the job of the Kohen Gadol, which is to, as we're going to see, Aaron particularly, is meant, he's one of the shepherds of the Jewish people. We have 7 shepherds. And these 7 shepherds are the ones who continuously feed us with divinity, with godly energy. And the 7 shepherds are Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. 7 shepherds. And like the Shpizin. And Aaron is one of those shepherds. And what does he do? That means he's constantly nurturing our neshama. Why does Aaron nurture our neshama? He nurtures us with love. Aaron is the one who's meant to channel Avas Hashem to the Jewish neshama. And even though you might ask a question, well, for that we have Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu nurtures the love. Avram is chesed, chesed is love. So we have many Maimarim in which it explains that there's is chesed ve'is chesed. There's 2 levels of chesed, which means there's 2 levels of love. There is an inferior love and there is a superior love. We can love Hashem with a more intellectual love, which is a human love. We can love Hashem with a innate neshama, soul kind of a love, which is an infinite love, which is a divine love. Avram Avinu is the one who empowers us to love God intelligently. And that's why Avram Avinu himself was a philosopher, a thinker, and he came to know Hashem through his mind, and as a result of that, he became fired up with a fire and a passion that was relentless, and carried him through his life, and with that he was willing to sacrifice everything, past all the nisyanis, but it still began with his intellect. He enables us to use our minds to be able to create Avos Hashem. That's Avram Avinu. But then there's something much deeper. We have a neshama that's a chelik l'kaimi ma'al mamish. And that neshama has an innate love to Hashem, which is purely divine. It just could be asleep, and it has to be awakened. And that's the job of Aaron the Kohen Gadol. Or even on a deeper level. God loves us with an infinite, boundless love. And the rule is, Kemayim aponim aponim. When you feel someone loves you, you love them back. Aaron's job is to inject into our neshama some of the Eibishter's love for us. And when we experience God's love to us, it creates such a powerful reaction and a powerful surge where the neshama kind of raptures with an infinite love to the Eibishter. And one of the differences between Avram's love, which is an intellectual love, and Aaron's love, which is godly love, a higher love, loving Hashem with a divine love, is that in Avram's love, there's still a personal mevukash. A personal mevukash means you're loving Hashem, you're driven towards Hashem, but you're seeking a certain satisfaction. Why do you love God? Because being close to Hashem is good for you. Experience, it's a phenomenal experience, it's exhilarating, it's pleasurable, it's delightful. Aaron's love, however, when you're loving God with a love that's kind of not coming from you, you're being sucked in by a powerful suction, so to speak, that's pulling your neshama in this powerful, uncontrollable love towards Hashem. It's not being driven by your thinking or by what you have a certain goal. You can't explain it. It's an infinite love. And what do you want? You don't want anything. You're just being pulled into Hashem. Or if we could say you don't want anything of God, any of God's qualities. You're not seeking any of the qualities of Hashem, any of Hashem's wonderful goodnesses, which you can benefit from. You just want, like David HaMelech says, Mili bashamayim, what do you have for me in heaven? Don't give me heaven. Which means all the heavenly delights and Gan Eden and all the candy that you have in heaven, I'm not interested in that. Ve'imcha lo chafatzti ba'aretz, and of course on earth, earthly pleasures, or even the lower Gan Eden, as the Alter Rebbe explains, earth is the lower Gan Eden, Shamayim is the higher Gan Eden, I'm not interested in it, David HaMelech says. Why? I want only you. Ve'imcha, anything besides you, it's with you, but it's not you, I'm not interested in it. Lo chafatzti. What do I want? Like the Alter Rebbe, when he would rapture, when the Alter Rebbe during davening would suddenly go into a state of dveikus, he would constantly hear, you would say, Eibishter, ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. I don't want your Gan Eden. Ich will nicht dein Olam Haba. Don't give me your Olam Haba. Ich will not dir alleins. I want you alone. And where do you have you alone? Where do you have the Eibishter alone? This powerful desire for Atzmus. Atzmus is Eibishter himself. It's not something that you will have it and have pleasure in it. You just want to just be him, be absorbed in him. Now, where do you have Atzmus? Down here in the mitzvah, in the physical world. In the Guv Gashmi, when you're doing a mitzvah, that's where you have the Eibishter. So the only what we might say quenching of the thirst of this Ava Rabbah that Aaron HaKohen creates within the Jewish neshama is Torah mitzvahs. That's why when did Aaron come? When Torah mitzvahs were given. In other words, before that we didn't really need Aaron. It's in order for Torah mitzvahs to be done in the proper manner, you need to love the Eibishter with that kind of a love, which can only be quenched with Torah mitzvahs. In any case, that's Aaron's job. But as we said earlier, in order for a person to be able to actualize and to do their job, they need clothing. Right? Clothing help a person perform their mission. So for Aaron to turn on the Jewish souls with this godly fire, for Aaron to do that, he needed his begadim help him, and particularly the tzitz. The tzitz was very, very powerful, and the tzitz was very important to infuse the Jewish people with what we call this Ava Rabbah, this great love. Because what does tzitz mean? It comes from the words meitzitz. Meitzitz means he is shining. Tzitz is meloshin, meitzitz or neitzachama. It's a ha'ara, it's a shine, it's a ray. Why is neitzachama called neitzachama? Because you start seeing the sun rays. It starts being meitzitz. Or meitzitz min acharakim means he's looking through the cracks, but when looking through the cracks means he's shining light through the cracks. That's the idea of meitzitz. Which is the idea, this is the ha'ara, this is the shining light of this great Ava Rabbah that's coming to us. And the pasuk says that meitzitz min acharakim, he's shining his light, he's flashing his light min acharakim from the cracks. Because when things are the way they should be, and when the Jewish people are in an elevated state, when we're all spiritually receptive, when the world is in a heightened state of divine reception and of connection to Hashem, like it was when the Beis HaMikdash was standing, then you had the Kohen Gadol, Aaron, or Aaron's descendants, who are a continuation of Aaron in this world, going into the Beis HaMikdash, lighting the menorah, which is lighting the 7 branches, which are the 7 types of neshamas that there are, and infusing them with this godly fire. And you should know that when Yidden lived in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, it was very, very common that a person exploded suddenly in middle davening, raptured with this heavenly love. We don't really realize what type of Jews lived in those days, in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. We only learn the negative press. We only see all the Avodah Zarah that they did and all the bad stuff. We don't know those quiet shoemakers, tzaddikim, who lived in those days and what kind of davening they daven. Well, the Gemara tells us, Chassidim Arishainim, the early righteous one, they davened 9 hours a day. What do you think they were davening for 9 hours? It took them so long to say the words. They just got lost in their love for hours. They were in that powerful, enthralling tshuka and dveikus for the Eibishter in that longing. Before you know it, 9 hours passed. And they hardly, they got from Baruch to Baruch Sha'amar. This is what it was. But what happens during the time of Golus? The Alter Rebbe explains. During the time of Golus, there is a wall, and there's a blockage. There's a mechitza shel barzel. There's an iron wall, curtain. And that's mafsik ben Yisroel aviyam shabashamayim, between Yidden and the Eibishter. Now, even though we're talking about Hashem's love, again, Aaron's love to us is God's love. He gives us a little taste of God's love. And the Eibishter's love, ani avaya lo shanisi, Hashem doesn't change. We're moody, but God is not moody. It says His love to us is infinite. So then how can you say that there is a stop? There is a koisel, there is a stop. There is a wall between us and Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe points out, he says, the pasuk says, Hinei ze oimed acha kosleinu, under your kosel, not his kosel. The Eibishter doesn't have a kosel, a wall that blocks him. Avanesechem mavdilim, your sins separate, beinechem lebein elokechem, between you and your God, not between elokechem and you. But Tzad the Eibishter, He's always shining, He's always loving us. But if we create within ourselves thick blockages, which come from, and that negative stuff, which cause a thickening and an interference, then we cannot feel the Eibishter's love to us. And if we can't feel God's love to us, we can't have that reflective love, that kimayim upon him is being blocked. Yet the Eibishter still gets through. How does He get through? Because even when we have walls, and even when we have these partitions that Chas v'Shalom tried to Chas v'Shalom block the Yid's love to the Eibishter, but there are cracks in those walls and there are windows. Mashgiach min achaloinois, meitzes min acharakim. How do those walls have cracks? How do those walls have windows? It's from all the moments of tshuva that we experience. It's even when we are full of ego and full of self-importance and full of inflated self, which is that's the walls we're going to see soon. But there's cracks, because vina shvi, a Yid gives a krechts. A Yid gives a sigh. And it's those sighs, and it's that krechtzing where Yid feels sepes nicht. I'm not the way I should be. And that creates those cracks, And once you have the cracks, Tzitz, then the love of the Eibishter to us, which is coming from Aaron HaKohen, from the Kohen Gadol, is still shining through, and it still reaches a Jew the moment there is that crack in that wall. But who helps us make those cracks? Those Hirudei Tshuva, the breaking of that wall, which is interfering with that great love. Who helps dissolve? That wall is made up of very, very, very strong, resistant material. It's called Mechitza Shel Barzel. It's made out of steel. So it doesn't break easy. You can't just puncture it. How do you make a crack in that wall? For that, you need to have the power of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is that powerful, we can say, acid, that if you pour a little bit of Moshe in that wall, boom, that even that thick and dense material just gives away and melts in the face of that. Why? Because Parshas Tetzaveh always comes out, usually Shabbos Zachar, the week before Purim. Had it not been 2 Adars this year, next week would be Purim. Next week is going to be Purim. It's going to be Purim Katan, the small Purim. There will be Purim Gadol. And Shabbos before Purim is always Shabbos Zachar. So when the Alter Rebbe said the Maimer, Tavkuf Samach Vav, it wasn't a leap year. So Parshas Tetzaveh was Shabbos Zachar. So the Alter Rebbe explains in the Maimer that the wall that separates between Yidden and the Eibishter, that's Amalek. And who's Amalek? Amalek is that partition. Why? Because Amalek is stubborn, unsubstantiated ego. A self-importance, an inflated mitzias of I am and I'm so important and so great, which is the ultimate thing that causes the Eibishter to run away from a person. And Amalek is chutzpah. He doesn't even have a reason to think he's so important. But he makes himself into an entire important something. And we all have that klipa inside of us, where we inflate ourselves to being such an important being. In an unholy way. Of course, we're infinitely important in a godly way. But that yeshus, that ego, that I, that's Amalek. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the essence of bittul. Moshe is the Moshe v'anachnu ma. Moshe Rabbeinu is bittul. Bittul is complete nullification. Is a word that we don't have another word, or abnegation, or all these words don't really work for bittul. It's an inclusion. It's to the Eibishter. It really means being included in God. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is. He's so conscious and so powerfully aware of Einod Milvado, that there's nothing but Hashem, that he doesn't have any metzias at all. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu is beyond Aaron. Aaron is someone who loves Hashem. That's why Aaron can feed us the love, because Aaron loves the Eibishter. Moshe Rabbeinu can't love. Moshe is beyond love. Because when you're bottled completely, there is no love. Because you have to have an I who loves. And there's no I, just bittul. So in order to melt away that big mechitza shel barzel, to allow Aaron's love, which is the love of the really divine love, to enter into our neshama and not be blocked, you need to splash a little Moshe, a little spritz of Moshe into the neshama. And how do you get Moshe into the neshama? Well, what belongs to Moshe, as he's going to explain, what belongs to Moshe, or what contains the energy of Moshe, is Zichri Toiras Moshe. It's when we learn Torah, but when we learn Torah in a Moshe Dig way. It's possible for a person to learn Torah, and it can have the total opposite effect. A person can learn Torah with a desire to actually, his whole drive in learning Torah is to show off and to make himself even more important than he was before. So that kind of limud Torah doesn't really accomplish it. It's the opposite of limud Torah. But when someone learns Torah in a way of bittul, which means I want to stop with me, as you can explain in a moment. We'll learn the mimer. It's like a person can never get out of me, Because it's all your thoughts. It's about what I want, what I need, what's good. I'm comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I want this. What's the right word? Emaciations. I don't know if that's a word. Our constant. That's not a word. Okay. What is it? Machinations. That's what I'm looking for. It's that constant. It's the self that doesn't stop draining a cup. So a person says, and I want to put myself on pause, but I can't because you can't stop your thought. Well, you could. Because you can replace your thoughts with the Eibishter's thoughts. Suddenly, I sometimes have helpers on my computer, people that they're not here on site, so they can come onto my computer. When they're not there, they use this remote access, and suddenly, and I'm standing there, and they're moving the mouse around, and they're doing this whole thing. Suddenly, someone infiltrated my computer, so it's nowhere not my territory. They're in there, and so on and so forth. So look at yourself as that computer. Suddenly the Eibishter's thought suddenly infiltrates your brain, and your brain is not occupied with thinking of, I'm going to go shopping, I'm going to go buy this, what am I having for lunch, where am I going, what's going to be with my parnasa, how am I taking care of my bills. All these worries we're so, which is really just an expression of the self. Suddenly you have self-suspension, you suspend yourself, and you move yourself, you step out, and suddenly you fill your thoughts with what the Eibishter is hungry for lunch. You're reading about karbanis. The Eibishter, I want this for lunch. I don't like this. I like that. And the deeper you allow yourself, let's say for an hour, to be completely taken over by the Eibishter's machshavas and the Eibishter's thoughts, then God is inside of you, not yourself. That's bittul. And guess what? Once you finish your learning session after an hour, there's a whole lot of cracks in that Amalek wall. And once there's a lot of cracks in that big, intense ego, now what can happen? The tzitz of Aaron, the mate tzitz of Aaron HaKohen, is able to shine in and create that powerful love to the Eibishter, which we should be. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who needs to make the tzitz. But who does he make it for? Aaron HaKohen. So that Aaron can shine his love into the neshama. The Maimer also explains at great length what the idea is of metzach. Why does that sis go particularly on metzach, which is the forehead? So we need to understand what's the concept of the forehead of Aaron. We also need to understand what is the significance of on the tzitz there were letters engraved. What is the significance of petuchei choisam, the letters that are engraved on the tzitz? Very briefly, the Maimer is going to explain that the engraved letters are the letters of the Torah. The essence of the Torah is not letters. The essence of the Torah is Chachmasei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the wisdom of God, the Ein Sof, the Eibishter himself, the Or Ein Sof that can't be defined by any words. But still, that undefinable Eibishter comes down to us in a form of letters, of words. So that's the letters on the tzitz. But we still need to understand what is written on the tzitz. What are those letters? It's engraved the words Kodesh Lashem. And the way it was engraved, Kodesh Lashem, was an interesting thing. The Gemara says you can't write anything on top of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Even though in a Sefer Torah you have Yud Kei Vav Kei many times on the bottom of a page, it is written on the top, but the tzitz was mamish Yud Kei Vav Kei, and therefore there can't be anything written on the top of it. Not only can't there be anything written on the top of Yud Kei Vav Kei, but even on the beginning of the line, if you would put Kodesh Lashem, then it would be some kind of a disrespectful to the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And again, I have to say that's because it's engraved letters, because it's the tzitz, because or else you can ask a question, well, in every pasuk chumash you have words before the Yud Kei Vav Kei, and after, and so on and so forth. You have to say dafke the tzitz. There couldn't be anything on. So how did they write it? There's different opinions, but the Gemara in general says Kodesh Lamed Lamata and Yud Kei Vav Kei above. It was written either, some say it was Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then below it Kodesh Lamed, Kodesh Lashem. But then some say you couldn't read it that way because then you're reading from the bottom up. So some say it was written Kodesh La and Yud Kei Vav Kei higher up in the end of the line. So it's nothing in front of it. There's different opinions of how it was done. But in general, the Gemara says, Kodesh Lamed Lamata, the Kodesh Lamed below, and Yud Kei Vav Kei Lamayla above. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain in the Maimer, what does it mean that the Kodesh Lamed is Lamata and the Yud Kei Vav Kei is above. All this is going to be discussed in the Maimer. And as I told you, the main Maimer we learned a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's posted on the website. Maybe it is. Some of them we learned still in Pico. And some of them never really got transferred onto the website. One day when I have 3 months vacation, I'm going to hopefully do that. But what we're left with now is the explanation on this Maimer. So let's try to figure it out together. Here we go. Biur al anal, the explanation on the above. What's the above? The above Maimer is Vasitza Tzitzov. The first thing he's going to explain, what is the significance of the metzach, of the forehead. So he says like this, let's read. Hine tlas chalalin de galgalta. The forehead is really part of the skull. You have a skull, and then the end of the skull, the front end of the skull, is the forehead. So now, in the Gilgolas, there are three cavities inside the head. The three cavities, what's inside the tlas chalalin, are filled with 3 mochin, 3 parts of the brain. And tlas moichin Chabad, in the 3 chalalin de galgalta, are the 3 moichin of Chabad. Okay, as we know. I mean, we usually speak about these specific powers of the soul, spiritual powers. Chachma is the first power, the power to originate ideas. Chachma is the power. Psst, Eli. Yeah, shkoyach. Chachma is the power to originate ideas, or the creative element of the mind process. Bina is, as we learned, the second one is Bina Shkoyach, which is more. Shkoyach. Bina is the second process, is the process of the analytical side of the mind, and then there is the power to connect, which is the power of Das, which we're going to speak about in a moment. 3 powers of the brain. But usually we talk about that these are 3 koyches hanefesh. But they also, every koyach in the nefesh also has to have a keli, physical keli. So there are 3 chalolim, 3, as I said, cavities somewhere in the head, inside, in where there are the 3 parts of the brain. Va'al kol chelik moyach kashmi, and on every chelik of physical brain, moyach kashmi, which is physical brain, shoira oira seichel, the more spiritual power of the seichel dwells on that physical corresponding material of the brain. Hashayach l'moyachahu, that has a shaychus to that moach. I am Migdash Melech Sham. Look in Migdash Melech, Pidishem HaMoichin. Okay, let's skip that for a moment. Kenoida, b'chachmas harafuah. As it is known in the chachma of medicine, in the science, in biology. Okashem shu lamata ba'adam agashmi. And just like this is in the physical human being down here, that we have 3 physical parts in the brain, which in each physical part, we know that chas v'shalom, if a person gets some kind of a brain damage, chas v'shalom, gets chas v'shalom, banged their head, in an accident, chas v'shalom, or anything like that, it makes a very big difference which side of the brain was hit. and different because different parts of the brain have different functions. And they also know, even medicine, that they can stimulate a certain part of the brain and actually cause, certain experiences and powerful memory to come out, or intense emotions and things like that, steering depending on where they're poking in the brain. So you see that the spiritual koiches connect to the physical place. And just like it is lamata ba'adam agashmi, in the human being down here below, kachul lamayla b'zah. The same is also above in the supernal man. Who's the supernal man? There's an air anpin. That's the midot, the sphirot, the attributes above. And there's also over there is moichin, the moichin of zah. V'ine ala moichin. So there is, just like we have our moichin above too, there is the divine moichin, the Eibishter's mind. V'ine ala moichin v'chabad. On top of our moichin. Now the moichin are the inside. That's inside the skull. What's inside your head. But on top of the moichin, what do you have? A hard bone. Chabad choifeif hagilgoles. So what surrounds it, what encompasses it, is the gilgoles. Gilgoles is the skull. Ubesoif hagilgoles. And at the end of the skull, meaning the front end, umitzcha, is the forehead. So you got the forehead, which is the front. Vahametzach, and the forehead. Who keneged moyach hadas. It stands opposite, neged, opposite the moach of das. Why? Chachma is on the right side. Bina is on the left side. Das is in the back, between the moach of Chachma and the moach of Bina. It connects the two, which physically connects right back here. If the das is back here, next, behind what we would call over here, where you put the tefillin, the kesher shel tefillin, when you put that knot, that's where the das is. So right in the front of it, neged it, is what? That's the forehead. Forehead is mainly the middle of the forehead, which is where the tzitz is, right over here. So it's neged the moyach of das. Ki moyach hadas, because the moyach of das, who be'emtza, which is in the middle. Shemoyach chachma moyach bina, the moach of chachma and the moach of bina, hemelifnim, they're in the inside. And moyach hadas and the moach of das, ba'acharayim is in the back, be'emtza in the middle, be'emtza beis ha'mochen, in between the two mochen of chachma bina, of chachma and bina. Ilachein, uneged ha'metzach, and that's why it stands opposite and corresponding to the metzach, to the forehead. So now let's understand, but das is in the pnimi. Now the difference between the moichen and the gilgolas is the gilgolas is the chitzonius, the external, and the mochen are the pnimius. So if the moichen are the pnimius, so for instance, the right side of the gilgolas is the makif and the chitzonius of what? Of the moach of chacham. The left side of the gilgolas is the makif, or the payas, if you can say, which are right over here, is the makif and the chitzonius of the moach of bina. The front over here is the makif and the chitzonius, the external element of moach of das. So now, in order for us to understand then what the function of the metzach is, we need to look into what das is, and we need to figure out then, based on that, what is the chitzonius of das. So let's see. Das, and what's the concept of das? Hu inyan hahiskashros. The whole idea of das is bonding. That's the idea of das. Das means to connect to it. So, for instance, you can learn something and have all the information, but you don't know it because you're totally not connecting to it. It's like you're learning. Sometimes we can be learning the most amazing, learning elokus, you're learning getlichkeit, and a person learns it coldly like a scientist. The other day I saw that someone wrote a comment, when you put things on YouTube, you have no idea who's watching. So I have such mushagayim out there that sometimes I have to every day figure out and figure out who's posting, and not everybody I want. So anyways, so someone is asking a question over there. Why are you shaking? Why are you rocking back and forth? Stop rocking. I understand the watcher is getting nervous, but it's not a Jewish guy. He's letting him watch. He's just Meshuggah. He's shaking and talking and said that. Torah is a lakus. A lakus makes you shake. He doesn't know the whole concept of Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, that when you're learning Torah, you're sensing Eibishter. It's not coming consciously, but you shake. And he has no clue. He's getting so upset he can't follow because why you're rocking. So you can learn Torah coldly, like a science of information. You're not at all connecting to the reality of it. Many times when a person is sometimes you talk to someone and they're listening. No, they're listening, but they're doing something else. So you feel that you're not connecting to them. You feel like you're not connecting to them because they're doing something else. Especially for a man can't do two things. They're not good at multitasking. So generally, besides maybe you can, so if they're doing something else, then they're not there. Women have a talent. Because I sometimes talk to my wife, and I'm excited about something. But she's busy. And I'm very excited. I want to share with her something that happened. And I start telling her all excited. And meanwhile, she's still busy chopping. And I'm getting all nervous because I want her attention. And she says, I'm listening to you. I'm like, exactly. It doesn't work. Why? Because I'm thinking that she's not giving me her das. What's das? Das is that you're present. You're there. Many times you learn something, or I gave the example a few weeks ago by the shir we spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu. You can be watching the most magnificent sunset. But you can, if you get a phone call, B'Shas Maisa, and you start talking on the phone, and even if you're watching, and especially if it's something that's perturbing you deeply, you're not there, even though you have all the information. You're not present. You're not connecting. So das means presence of being. You're there, and you're connecting to what is. And if you're fully present and you're there and you're learning something phenomenal, so that's why the das is the link to the emotions, because you will never get emotionally excited about it if you're disconnected. So das is the element of vadasu inyan his kashrus, bonding. You can a lot of times be in a conversation with someone, you can feel it. You're talking to someone, and suddenly, if you're sensitive, you right away recognize that their das has gone out the door. They're not there. They're listening, they're spacing, they're looking at you. You can see that they're not there. Right? So that das is I want to feel that I'm connecting to you. There's an eskashnus. And that's why, for instance, by a Rebbe, the whole idea of a Rebbe is das. He's here to make the Eibishter real to us, to connect us. And that's why dafka by a tzaddik and by a Rebbe is the concept of iskashrus. You don't hear that by any. There's no idea of having iskashrus with a Rosh Hashiva. There's no idea. You have to strengthen your iskashrus. You have to go to the shir and hear the shir. There's no idea of having iskashrus with your rabbi. It could be a nice rabbi. It could even be a rabbi that teaches Chassidus. Everything good, but it's not of iskashrus. Even with your mashpia, there's no iskashrus. Iskashrus is what with your wife and your family, you have to have iskashrus. And who else do you have to have iskashrus? Iskashrus to a Rebbe. Because the Rebbe's inyan is das. His whole inyan is iskashrus. Bonding. That's the inyan of das. So, when it comes, especially when it comes to spirituality, and to holiness, and to godliness, and to knowing the Eibishter, their das plays a tremendous role, because you're dealing with an Eibishter that's not tangible in our five senses. Since the Eibishter is not tangible in our five senses, it's very easy to study about him and be a ganze philosopher and a ganze thinker and you, the Eibishter, is totally not real. You don't have that das, the reality of it. So when it comes to Elokus, you have to and therefore that the Eibishter should have an influence, and you should feel love, Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, which that's the whole reason why you're learning about him, so that you can come to love him and to fear him. Das plays the most pivotal role in that relationship. How do you have das? So the Alter Rebbe says, you have to really be present and think very deeply, even when you learn something. It's not just enough to learn and have to get the information, but to really like focus in and attach yourself very strongly to what you're learning. And the das usually comes after you study. You came to a shiur, you just sit down 20 minutes. It's an exercise that is the most powerful exercise, and I think, people just don't do it. And if they would just do this one little activity after every shiur, then you would be a transformed human being. It would help actually if the person who gives the shiur would also do it. I'm talking to myself. And that is that after you finish the shiur, you sit 15 minutes and you just think about the reality of what you just learned and what it means to you. And then it would like suddenly click. It would like become part of you. Or else it's just information that flows in and maybe hangs around for a little while and leaves. It doesn't touch you. It doesn't grab you. You're not changed by it. So that's das. Va'adasu inyana is kashrus bepnimius, an ability to fix your mind on something and internalize it. Shekefi shenigmar b'chachma ubina, according to what you have concluded in the chachma and the bina, which is that the Eibishter is great in this case. The Eibishter is magnificent. The Eibishter is just unbelievable, and he's the only reality or something like that. According to what it is, Kain Yiskayim, so it should be. This truth should be my truth. Should be my reality. It has to become your reality. And once it becomes your reality, what does it do? It stimulates your emotions. So corresponding to this power of das, the chitzonius of the das, that's the forehead. Shehu b'chitzonius hamoichin gamkein, which is in the chitzonius hamoichin gamkein bechinazu. It's also this bechina. Tahainu. And here's a haskama shohuskim lekayim masharatz al pi haseichel. It's an interesting idea. So let's say you're davening, and during davening, after you've had a proper hachana for your davening, and then you're davening and you meditated, and then you were very successful in that meditation, and you actually got excited to a point that you're experiencing avas Hashem v'yiras Hashem, and you have a real fire in your soul to cleave and connect to the Eibishter. And that's your das. You're focusing, you have your das, and you're grabbing it. But vinish dvi, that's for sure, that you can't daven the whole day. So what is going to happen an hour or two after davening? That place where you were, that mental connection that you had during davening, which inspired your emotions, will fade away, because you're now suddenly moved away from looking and gazing at the Eibishter and seeing the pnimius of the worlds and the power of God that's creating everything. You're not seeing that now. Now you're looking at what? So maybe it influences for you a while, but then a few hours later, you've been looking at the world for many hours and not at the pnimiustic energy that's within the world. So suddenly your reality will switch. That which you made real by davening suddenly dissipates. And the natural existence of stuff, of the world full of things, suddenly resurfaces and becomes your reality again. And then goodbye to the whole davening. So here is just like we said earlier, what does the das do? The point of the das is that it's meant to connect you and to take these truths that your mind is perceiving, internalize it and making it part of yourself. B'pnimius, the das is the das. B'chitzonius, what does b'chitzonius mean? When that inner Chabad of your soul is not shining. Because that can't be. You can't be in a consistent state of internal moichin. You can't do that unless you're a super tzaddik like the Baal Shem Tov and Yosef HaTzaddik, who didn't divert 1 second their mind from the Eibishter. Unless you're a super tzaddik, you're in a state of moichin de gadlus all day long. Yosef HaTzaddik was able to do that even while he was Isaac in the Cheshbonis of Mitzrayim and running the accountant. His mind was in a state of moichin de gadlus as if he's in the middle of deep meditation. He was able to have two thoughts at the same time. Apply himself here and be in a state of dveikus. Very few people. The Baal Shem Tov used to, what's it called again? Not be able to speak to people Friday night. Because Friday night he had such a liyas neshama. He was in such a transcendental state that you couldn't speak to him. You couldn't speak to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov davened that he should be able to talk to people and talk about whatever they need, even Friday night. So then he was elevated to a higher level. That he was able to be at the same place Friday night and still have conversations with people regarding whatever they needed. And it didn't hurt his dveikus. That's the idea of Yosef HaTzadik and the Baal Shem Tov. That's why I use them as an example. Most people can never be in that, can't be there. So you might have a strong and transformative experience during davening, but the pnimius of it is going to go away. Now, just because the pnimius went away, it means the moichen are not shining. It doesn't mean that now you're cut off, chas v'sholem, and you're disconnected from the Eibishter. A yid has to be connected to the Eibishter all day long. So how do we function? So when our pnimius is not available, we work with our skull. What's the skull? What's the skull? The skull is the chitzonius of our head, of the convictions of our mind. But when we're dealing with the moichen pnimium, that means you're in the experience. The skull means that what? In general, the Gilgoles is shaykh to Ratzon. Ratzon means, because it's makif, it's the keser, the crown, which the crown is the idea of Ratzon, will. And the Metzach means a stubborn will. Metzach is almost the same words as Netzach. And what does Netzach mean? Determination. Netzach is perseverance. In the emotional level, Netzach is, what does Netzach mean? It's a stubbornness of the emotion. It's the perseverance of the emotion. It's when Netzach is the determination of kindness. Netzach sits below Chesed. What does that mean? Chesed is when you're feeling very loving to your children and you want to give them and give them and nurture them and feed them and take care of them. And Netzach kicks in when you're totally, as a mother, your love to your child totally just dried out. And you actually don't have any love right now. But you're still there for your children. Why are you there for your child? Not because you're right now loving them, because right now you don't feel any love. Any internal experience of love. What do you have? You have perseverance. You have, there's an akshanis, a stubbornness in the love, that the love, it's a commitment. That's what the love is. Netzach is the love without the pnimius, the energy of the experience of the love, just the determination, b'poyel mamish. So just like there is a netzach in the emotions, there is a netzach in the moichen as well. And that's the metzach. What does that mean? It's the conclusion of when you davened, let's put it this way, when you davened, and you had a powerful mind realization in your seichel, in your chachma and your bina, and primarily you dased it. That's the main important. You got to das it. If you don't das it, garnishment there. You actually internalized it. And as you internalized it, you felt the reality and how this truth of the Eibishter must change my life. My day today cannot be just another day of aimless wandering and doing nothing. Just taking care of my and my day cannot be in a temporal existence. My day has to be dedicated to eternity, to the Eibishter, to what's real. Fine, you come to that. That's during davening. As a result of that, you have a ratzon. You created within yourself a desire to be connected to the Eibishter all day long. That's your desire. I want to study Torah as much. My day should be Torah and mitzvahs. That's what it is. So you feel after davening. But right after davening, this ratzon is filled with pnimius. It's filled with the deep convictions of what you just had, what you just appreciated, what you just known, and all of that is flowing, all that deep mental richness of the seichel of what you had during davening, and that experience is fueling the ratzon. That's called the ratzon that's in your das. The chitzonius of it is when you know you made up your mind to be in a certain way, but you forgot the reason why you made up your mind. You don't even know what it is. But this is the way it's been said, this is the way it is. I saw from the Tzemach Tzedek, which is a Biur on the Mimer, which I didn't understand that whole Biur, but this was one little point that I was kind of connecting to. It's an interesting thing. He says that Metzach represents this stubbornness, and he says you find that when people made certain determinations and they forgot the reason of why they had the determination. It's just they decided so and so. It's like a person like this you can't argue with. There's no way you can change their mind. If the person has a more pneumistic connection to why they decided to do so and so, then you can, because their decision is based on a seichel experience and understanding, then you can sit down and start talking to them and show them that in the circumstance that's in right now, maybe it should be a little different. That's why it's always easier to argue with people that are what? That have moichin rechavim, broadness of mind. So which means, even though they have a conviction, you can talk to them, you can discuss it, and it could, but if the person just has the final verdict, and they forgot already why, but I'll say this. So you have people who shit this that way, they don't even hear, you don't even give you a chance to even talk to them. This is the way it is, and they're finished. Fartik. That's the stubbornness of Metzach. So Metzach is what? A heskem. It's a decision to be in a certain way. Or ratzon. It's called skull, not pneumius, because you're dealing with that conviction when the ratzon already subsided. The will, not the ratzon, the seichel, the or pnimi that was fueling, that created that ratzon in the first place, is already forgotten. You don't have that inner illumination. But all you have is what? The ratzon b'negeya lepoel, regarding to action, that this is the way it is. Now this metzach is very important. Why is it important? Because in order to keep you Jewish the whole day, when I say keep you Jewish, it means really Jewish, being completely devoted to Jewish things, and not get chas v'sholem dragged down into the distractions of the material physical world, but that you remain mitzvah-driven, godly-driven all day long. If you're only relying on your or pnimi, it's not going to be there unless you're davening 9 hours a day. But if you're not doing that, and even if you're davening 9 hours a day, the rest of the day it's going to last for a little while, and afterwards it's going to dissipate. But if you have the conviction of your metzach, which is the ratzon, without that can carry through. So now let's read inside. L'chein, let's read again. The yemosoi mechaven metzach, corresponding to the das, is the metzach. Shehu b'chitzayni yisamoichin gam kein b'chinazu. What does it mean? Tahainu haskama. It is the haskama. That's the idea when you say amaskim. What does that mean? It's like a determination or an agreement. You agreed upon something. You agreed upon shohuskim. You have agreed upon through yourself. L'kayim masharatz al pi aseichel. You've decided that you're going to fulfill that which you've done al pi seichel. V'hi v'hu reshimu shenishar achar estalkus hamoichin. This is the reshimu, the leftover trace that's left over after the moichin has departed. Kenis Kaliel that we said earlier. Achadas, the das itself, hu pchinas pnimius. The das is when it's filled with inner light. Sheba'oi da chachma bina ma'irim b'takvan, when the chachma and the bina, the illumination, the mental illumination, the oir ha'seichel, is shining very strong. Hu mekashram. And again, it's possible to have an illumination of seichel, but you're not there. You don't have the das. The das is focusing in. See, here's an amazing thing. There's work to have chachma and bina, but it's much harder work to have your das. That's the hard work. The hard work is really the das, to really apply it to yourself, to really bring yourself and fix your mind. I know it already, because we get impatient. Once we appreciate something, we know it already. We learned about it, we know it already. Next, give me something exciting. Next. So to be able to know, stop and say, this is just one idea, and let me fix my mind until I feel it in my kishkas. That's the das. That's difficult. But when does the das, the avoda of das, is during the time when the chachma and bina are still shining. And he brings them down into his pinimius. But the metzach is when the chachma and bina, it's ready to skull. It's outside. It's when the chachma and bina are no more shining. But you remember that what? That when you closed your siddur, you had decided already today that what? That today's day is going to be what? Devoted to the Eibishter. A spiritual day. So now what's going to happen? Now is where your metzach, which is the haskama, it's a ratzon, and you don't even know the reason anymore. In other words, that conviction, the underlying truths that brought you to this conviction is not shining anymore by the person. But yet, benegei lepoil, benegei to action, this was my decision. And no one is going to shake me from my decision. That's the power of the metzach. And on that metzach is where you put the tzitz, as we're going to see soon why. Ayin b'shara yechudim perik zayin mevur echadas meir b'mitzcha. So look in Shara Yechudim from the Arizal, where he explains how das influences the metzach. V'cheinu be'etz chayim u'b'zoyer rakia ala idra rabba gaba mitzcha ayin sham. Okay, so now that we have a little introduction of what is the idea of metzach, it's the das, but the das without the ur pnimi, but it's still the same concept of das. What does das mean? It's connecting to something. Das is the connecting to something while the thing is completely illuminating in your soul. And the metzach is continuing that connection even when the internal light of it is not there anymore, but you still continue in your connection. Now, as we said, metzach is very, very important. A lot of times people, this is exactly where we fall, is that we have, what's it called again, people that are in tune and into the learning and into the davening, but if they don't develop this metzach power, then they always find that their lapses that there is between davening and davening, which sometimes can either be a day, or it can be from Shabbos to Shabbos, or it can be that you only get to daven once a month, or maybe it can be that you only get to daven on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this kind of davening. Meaning to have that illumination. What's going to carry you in between? That you shouldn't chas v'sholom go all the way down that long sliding pond. Takes you all the way. How do you affect that shouldn't happen? And the only way is the metzach. It's that the conviction, the decision, the strong stubbornness that this is the way it is. Aaron umizayin royan. Now Aaron is from the 7 shepherds. Shemamshich re'usa deliver. Now remember what we spoke about in the beginning of the share tonight. Aaron's job is to introduce to us a higher kind of a love. And as we spoke earlier, what Aaron is really doing is he's not really introducing love, he's introducing Eibishter into our souls. Or he is introducing the Eibishter's love to us, that we should sense the Ava Rabbah, the Eibishter's great love from above, this godly love. And Aaron is channeling that love inside our neshama. Now, when does that love get channeled into your neshama? Let's stop for a moment. When does that love get channeled into our neshama? During davening. No, it doesn't mean that you sit back in the middle, you're I don't know, whatever we're doing. We're doing whatever, something. And suddenly you're just going to be, because Aaron HaKohen just now infused your neshama, boom, you're suddenly rapturing towards God. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, it's if you're going to sit down and during davening, make an effort, and even though your efforts are only human efforts, these human efforts, if especially in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, when the Kohen Gadol lit the menorah, he created this powerful infusion, spiritual infusion. And since all Yidden, all Neshamas were plugged into him, we spoke about his kashrus, all plugged into Aaron HaKohen, he brought the spiritual avarabba to flow through the arteries and the veins and the bloodstream of all the Jewish souls. And a person that made this keli makes an effort to connect to the Eibishter is suddenly empowered with a love that is not commensurate to their efforts. It's much bigger than their efforts. Because their effort would have only created a human love. Suddenly they're experiencing this powerful, powerful ava to the Eibishter that's just unbelievable. Okay? So that's Aaron's inyan. But we understand that too is limited to when? When is it limited? During the time of davening. After that, that's fire, when you're not focusing on the Eibishter, when you're not focusing on a siddur, when you're not focusing on Baruch Sha'amar V'Haya Ha'olam, that all of the world is only Sha'amar, Hashem spoke. You're not focusing on V'Ata Mechayes Kulam, you the Eibishter is enlivening all of creation, Ata Sisas HaShamayim. Instead of Baruch Sha'amar V'Haya Ha'olam, what are you looking at? V'Haya Ha'olam, not Sha'amar V'Haya Ha'olam. What are you looking at? Not V'Ata Mechayes Kulam, but you're looking at Kulam, not V'Ata Mechayes Kulam. And you're looking at a world, and even that kulam and that oilam, you're not seeing it the oilam and the siddur. You're seeing the oilam as it is outside of the siddur. It's a whole different darga. It's a whole different reality. You're actually facing the world. So what will happen to Aaron's love? Goodbye. Oh, but there is metzach Aaron. What's the metzach of Aaron? That's Aaron's love that the Aaron gives you has a metzach. What's that metzach? It's the conviction that you have that you are going to live consistent with the love that you felt, with that divine love that you had during davening. So that's the metzach of Aaron. So if Aaron u'mezayin and royim shamamshich reusa deliba, he is drawing down this great reusa deliba. The yearning of the heart is this particular kind of love that I mentioned earlier. Reusa deliba doesn't just mean avas Hashem. It means very deep love coming from the depth of the neshama. That's called reusa deliba, the yearning of the heart. Ach be'emes, achakach choylefes v'oiveres. The love is geitavek. It disappears. And one of the reasons, but in addition to general that the love can't burn in you all day long, which was true even in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, the love can't burn in the person all day long, but you have the metzach Aaron that is effective. But in addition to that, yesh mechitza shel barzel, there is a iron curtain, mafsekas, that separates, especially during the time of Golus when Klippa is very strong. In Bechlal, there's a time when the Eibishter godly flow into the world is very, 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 very limited. The Eibishter is not flowing into the world like a gushing river, like a Nor Yotzei Me'edan, like a gushing faucet. The Eibishter is a tiny little trickle into the world. So then, and Klippa is robust, and Klippa is strong. And just like this, there's the cosmic Klippa. It affects every person. That surrounding their spiritual neshama and their godliness is a thick mechitza, a thick partition that's detaching them from their inner neshama, from their inner world, from their inner light. At times, meitzitz min hacharakim. Even in this galus, when there is this thick barrier, and that's why it's finding. So, how many people do you know that experience this avarabba during davening? We get sometimes here in shul 1 or 2 people that experience avarabba during davening. It just sometimes whatever, but it's generally not too many. They're laughing. Yeah. Today's days, if someone experiences avarabba during davening, we generally want to call and take them, right? because, we're not really expecting people to go into this state, right? Sadly, because the status state is that no one feels this avarabba. And why we don't have this avarabba? Because we're already 3,000 years in Golos, or 2,000 years in Golos. That's the mechitza shel barzel. But from time to time, you do see a person has a little avarabba. That's a moment of tshuva. It's a moment of deep, right? And that's because there's cracks. At times, the Eibishter peeks through the cracks. Which are these breakings of tshuva that allow for the avarabba, for the great love, to get through. The imke, but the problem is, even if we do have these moments of avarabba, of like a deeper love to the Eibishter, the problem is they only come at great intervals. Pa'amim ukach, upa'amim kach. There's no consistency to it. In the days of the Beis HaMikdash, a person could be in this continuous state every day. Tmidim Kesidram. Every day Aaron lights the menorah. Every day they're fired up. Why? Because there's no mechitza shel barzel, and the light of the menorah hits us very strongly. Gewaldig. But during the time of Golus, you have the mechitza shel barzel. It only makes its way through when there is moments of tshuva that crack. Pa'amim kachu, pa'amim kach. And you don't really have control over it. It's like, when is going to be that tshuva? When is that going to happen? It happens spontaneously, something. Or sometimes certain circumstances in a person's life that causes their ego to crush. And when you have that, you have a broken heart. And when you have a broken heart, the big, that inflated self gets crushed. But how can a person take control over it? That you should have a consistency. That even in Golus, even now, a yid should be able to have avarabba. I'll tell you an amazing thing. In the Baal Shem Tov Shul in Mezhebush, suddenly there were a lot of Yidden who had avarabba. And the same was in the Magid Shul in Mezrich. There was a whole bunch of Yidden that had avarabba consistently, every day. And in Liozna, by the Alter Rebbe, Asach Yidden had avarabba. How did it appear suddenly? After thousands of years of kind of being dried out, suddenly you had Yidden who had avarabba. So there must be an advice. Liyos al mitzchay tamid dafka. What's the eitzah? You should be able to have the avarabba. And here's the thing. It's not enough, as we said earlier, it's not enough to have the avarabba. You have to have the ava, and then the ava should go where? Onto the metzach, because the main point is that a yid should be connected to the Eibishter 24/7. They don't fall. So you have the avarabba comes in during davening, if what? If there's no wall. Or if there is a wall, but there's a crack, so the avarabba comes in. But the point over here is that the avarabba should stimulate a metzach, which is mitzchay. And what's the chiddush of metzach? Is that it should be al mitzchay tamid. It should be all the time. But if the whole ava only comes in at rear intervals, so you have very little chance that it should be al mitzchay tamid l'ratzin, that the person will have a conviction and consistency in his service without ever falling, without ever becoming disconnected. So how do you make sure that it will stay? So there is a way. There's a way to keep a big crack open in the wall all the time. Not a crack that opens and closes, but to keep that crack constantly open. How is that? You got to introduce Moshe Rabbeinu into your neshama. Aaron is great, but Moshe Rabbeinu empowers there should be that passageway for Aaron's light, which is the great love, the divine love, to flow into the person's neshama, so that it can be the ava continuously and translate to the rest of the day to the metzach, which is the convictions that remains and carries us all through the. Why is that? The eitzah that it should be al mitzchay, on his metzach, that we should have that conviction that we said earlier, the chitzonius of the das. which is, of course, empowered by the Das itself, that should be Tamid Dafka all the time, Huayidei Moshe. That comes through Moshe Rabbeinu. And what aspect of Moshe? How do you get Moshe inside of you? Well, Moshe put his essence into the Torah. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Moshe commanded us Torah, and therefore, through having, through utilizing Torah properly, it will keep it will keep this barrier broken and open, as it says. Bechar lanu anashim. What does he mean by this? Because as we can explain in a moment, that the barrier is made up of Amalek. Amalek is that barrier. And when it came time to fight with Amalek, Yeshua went out to battle. But Moshe Rabbeinu says to Yeshua, Bechar lanu Moshe. Bechar lanu anashim. And you know what Moshe really said to Yeshua? Bechar lanu. What's this lashon lanu? Bechar anashim. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Yeshua, go get our chevra. Hear that? Bechar lanu anashim. Don't just go out and select guys. Bring our guys. That's the lashon lanu. Our. Bring our chevra. That means, and what are they? The Alter Rebbe defines them as Anshe Moshe. Moshe's people. Why? Because obviously the war against Amalek wasn't a physical battle. I mean, it manifested in the physical plane as well, but it was an extremely dangerous spiritual fight. Amalek represents the one klippa that after all the klippas were shattered, terrified, and scared, and no one would have the audacity, the one klippa that stood up against the Eibishter in the highest moment of divine success and divine expression and the Eibishter's supremacy in the world, the one was Amalek. Because Amalek is that power of chutzpah, that power of extreme ego that nish dispel from anybody, and no matter what, claims I am important and can't stand that there's anything else important other than himself. That's the power of Amalek. Just pure, irrational ego. And that's chutzpah, that's self. The power to fight against Amalek, the power to reduce Amalek, to diminish Amalek, is only through bittul, which is the total opposite of Amalek, but not stam bittul, extreme bittul. Who's extreme bittul? Moshe Rabbeinu is extreme bittul. And therefore, the power of Moshe is, as we said earlier, the acid that literally just you splash it on Amalek, and Amalek disappears instantly. B'char lanu anoshim, go bring up kiwai, as he explains now. You realize the way the mimer is set over here is very cryptic, because the mimer is really already discussed in the previous page. He's just noting certain elements of that mimer and then explaining it more Kabbalistically. Ki azeh u'mazeh, because the one opposing hi mechitza shabar zalam afsekes u'bchenes Amalek. Who's the zel u'mazeh? Who is the power, the mechitza shel barzel? This mechitza, this partition that separates between the Yid and the Eibishter that we spoke about before. Im tagbia kenesher, it's Amalek, because what's Amalek? It says about Edom, if you're going to rise like an eagle, you see that the power of Amalek is he rises upward. Which is what? Chutzpah. It's the power of pure chutzpah, v'gases haruach, and its thickness of spirit, density of spirit. Density of spirit is you can't feel anybody else but yourself. That's the gases haruach. Akshus, it's an akshanis, it's a stubbornness, v'natzchanis, and a drive to win. That I have to be right. I have to be right at all costs, just because it's me. And that's an Amalek. Why? Because Amalek. And why does Amalek have that power? And again, what is Amalek blocking? Amalek is the mechitza that's not allowing the godly love to infiltrate your soul. Remember, Aaron is trying to what? To kindle your neshama. That's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. He was hired to do that. Aaron was hired to inspire. He gets paid for that. They give him the truma, the challah. That's his job. He's got to flame our neshamas. So he's trying to do so, but he's being blocked. What is he being blocked? He's being blocked by Amalek. Why? Because what did we learn earlier? Is the power to take intellectual reality, truths that you conceive in the mind, spiritual truths, and internalize them. That what? To the point where you get excited about it, that your emotions are, that you attach yourself to it emotionally. What's that power? It's the power of das. When you activate your das, you will take abstract truths and make them so real that you can have an emotional and physical reaction to them. Right? That's what we want. So then the power of Aaron lies in what? To transmit that love, the Avos Hashem, you need to have the das. Without the das, nothing is working. What do we know about Amalek? Amalek is a klipa that stands antithetical to das. Because what does it say about Amalek? Yoideya es riboinai. He's not like all the other klippas. That are klippas. Why are they klippas? Because they're ignorant. Their ignorance, they mistake, they don't know the truth, and because of their ignorance, they deny God. And they live a corrupt life, because they just don't know. Amalek knows everything. He knows the emes. Chazal say about Amalek, Yoideya es riboinai. He knows his master, umeskaven limrid boy, and he has intention to rebel against him. Which means, if chas v'shalom, a person is infected with klipas Amalek, they're in very big trouble. Because what's going to help you? You're going to learn a Maayon Chassidus. You're going to learn. You're even going to understand. You're even going to meditate on it. And you're going to have a strong conviction that this is the way you have to behave, or you get it. But if a person has that Amalek, which means he doesn't care. It's like, okay, so this is true, this is real, this is great, but it's not going to faze me. I have my life. I want to continue doing whatever I want to do, and I don't care what. Don't confuse me with the facts or what's real. I don't care about it. It's an akshanis. It's a stubbornness of klipa not to budge. You see that in the first Amalek. The Eibishter was so vividly pronounced in the whole world, and Amalek said, Ich wer nicht nispal. I don't care, I'm not changing. I'm going to fight him. And if that klipa is inside a person's neshama, it's very, very dangerous. Ki Amalek hu yodeya riboinoi miskaven limrid boy. He's intentioning to rebel against him. She a klipa shekeneged das. He is the klipa that stands against das. Ve'enoi maniach es hadas l'spashet b'midos. He doesn't allow the das to expand into the midos. He blocks it. Al yedei chutzpah belitam v'das. He fights it with a chutzpah, without any reason. It's the next mimer in the Sefer Torah, or where he explains the root of the klipa of Amalek. Look in Sefer from Pirush on the Zohar, Ramosha Zakusi, where over there he explains this idea of Amalek. That Amalek is a klipa that works against das. Kenoida, as it is known. And who can fight this klipa of Amalek? That is only Moshe Rabbeinu. Pchinas Moshe. And that is Moshe. Why? Because Moshe is the total opposite from Amalek. He is bittul on the, if Amalek is the epitome of what? The epitome of self. The epitome of self-importance. I'm such a thick grubyan that I only want, I'm not disposed from anything. I'm not moved by anything. I want, and I don't care. I feel myself so strongly. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have a tiny trace of self. Elokus has so permeated Moshe Rabbeinu that there's no self at all. Dafka Moshe can blow Amalek out. Completely blast Amalek. That's why Moshe's people went to fight Amalek. But what does it have to do with Moshe's people? How do I access Moshe Rabbeinu's energy? So he explains over here, Moshe bittel va'Torah hu limud b'pchenas bittel. Torah is learning, but what kind of learning? Learning in a state of bittel. That means that there's a seder avodah. In order for a yid to be successful in his Yiddishkeit, you need, there's ingredients, there's many things that you need. A person needs to focus during davening. For that you have to learn Chassidus. And then you can daven, and you have to daven slow, and you have to be mizboinen in your davening. And you have to shut your phone, and you can't have distractions because then you're not there. You have to be fully present. And in that das, and get there, but that's not enough. Because it's possible that a person's nefesh habahamis should be an Amaleki. That means with all the learning and all the davening and all the meditation and all the das, Amalek is just going to come and give one laugh at that whole das. Sometimes Amalek comes and makes a joke. That's an internal, and laughs it off. Oh, so what? Or sometimes we know deep inside that based on what we learned and based on what we've heard and based on our inspiration, we feel that today I shouldn't do so-and-so. I shouldn't. Or today I should do so-and-so. And we're almost like ready to make that commitment. And then there is this like one thought that creeps in from somewhere, if you could identify it, that says, yeah. You're going to change your life now? You're going to change your life? I said, no, I'm not going to change, just for today. Tomorrow you're going, that's all. And suddenly out there, or it's something that comes like, no way, something that comes with a stubbornness. No way you're giving up on this. No way. I know that this is, it's an Amalek. So what do you need? You need to have a power within your neshama that breaks that Amalek, that dissolves it. That's what I'm talking about. Dissolves it. Because Amalek is density. It's a density of self, of klipa. So you need something that you just bring that in and it dissolves that density. So how do you deal with that? If you take an hour a day, a half an hour a day, 20 minutes a day, and so if that's all you have, whatever your amount of time, and you're going to say, I am learning Torah today. And what's my intention of learning Torah? I want to bring the Eibishter's absolute truth into my space, into my nefesh. And I'm learning the Torah it has nothing to do with me. I want that the Eibishter's emes should shine within my space. As I spoke earlier, it's like you're allowing God's thoughts to take over your mind. It's not you at all. It's totally Eibishter. It's Einoid Mulvada. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. As he says over here, Limud b'pchenas bittel. Learning in a state of bittel. Ki oimer ein li ela Torah. And he proves that Torah, if it doesn't have bittel, is not even Torah. Because the Gemara says, if someone says, I'm not doing mitzvahs, ein li ela Torah, all I have is Torah, that's my life is only Torah. And he doesn't want to be osek in gemilas chasadim and do other things. Afila Torah ein lo, even Torah he doesn't have. Which means if it's Torah that's not given over to the Eibishter's ruts, and it's about what I want, not about what the Eibishter wants, is a sign that it's not Torah. Afila Torah ein lo. It's information, it's knowledge. But it's not, it doesn't have the holiness of Torah. Ela Torah's Moshe. It needs to be what kind of Torah? The Torah of Moshe. The Torah that has the quality of Moshe. What's Moshe's quality? Moshe's quality is the quality of bittul. Which is what? V'loi sechalalu. What does it mean, v'loi sechalalu? V'loi sechalalu means don't make a space, a halal. A space which is not a lakus. What does that mean? Your drive in Limud HaTorah is if you're learning Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, is that I don't want to be a Metzius that's blocking on the emes of the Eibishter. What does that mean? Betzad emes lamitoy, from the Eibishter's absolute truth, he is, then there's nothing but him. Atahu koidim shenivra olam, you are before the world was created. That's the truth. Before the world was created, this entire space that we're in right now was filled with what? Only with Eibishter. There's no space, but hypothetically, it was him and there was nothing but him. In the end, what is going to be? Him and only him. So, Atahu koidim shenivra olam, atu mishenivra. So we say, that's ani rishon vani achron umi baladai, and in between the time of what? Of ani rishon vani achron, ein Elokim, there's nothing else but him. If that's the emes, so where does an ego, where does this self-absorbed maniac come in the middle of it and claim beingness, which is the absolute sheker? So when a Yid realizes that the very metzius of self, the very fact that I am an I who is busy with self, in other words, if we were in tune with the emes, so even if we're creatures, we're beings, but our emes is really Eibishter, it's really him, then our content, think about that, then our content of moving of every muscle of ours, the content of every stimulation taking place in our nerve system, of every flow of energy flowing, of our body and of our energy and of our soul and of our mind and of our thoughts would be one thing, in actualizing and in fulfilling the Eibishter's Ratzon, because he's the only reality. So we would be completely conduits to his will. But when a person realizes that halavai, if I can take from my entire life, think about it. If you can take your entire life, how many minutes can you find from your entire life when I say you, I mean me, all of us, when we are acting in a way of not self-interest, but purely Eibishter's interest. You say, well, I'm doing a mitzvah. That's true. But even when you're doing a mitzvah, it's doing a mitzvah but purely because the Eibishter wants. It's not easy, without any ulterior motives. Those are the moments. So when a person, the chaptzach, that what? That myself, my ego, think about this. In every direction, north, south, east, I'm using the directions just north, south, east, and west, up and down. For how far? For gazillion miles in each direction. There's nothing but the Eibishter. And in the middle, there is this tiny little peepsqueak, weighing, let's say, 180, 200 pounds, walking around, a ganze yachke bedam over here, who claims beingness in the middle of the Eibishter's absolute emes, and he's still proud of living that lie of being a Metzius. See, he says, Gewalt, v'lo yisachalalu. I'm creating a cholol, a little space where the Eibishter's emes is being denied. Everywhere else, the emes aliki is there. And the klipper comes and says, you think you're a yesh? Your uncle is a bigger yesh than you. Okay, that's part of the klip. But man, that stuff is only just a few people here. In all arena, in all spiritual worlds, in all realities, einoid milvadei, not the Eibishter. And that I should be a block on the emes of the Eibishter? I should be a block on that emes, chas v'sholom, I can't. But I have a problem, I can't get out of myself. Because no matter what I do, my thought, my stream of consciousness begins. What is a stream of consciousness? Begins every second. It starts, the underlying power of my entire is I am. And what? I need this, I want that, I'm scared of that, I'm excited about that, I hate this, it's constantly, it's just an expression of self. So in order to stop that, it's an emergency. Think about it. It's a person. It's an emergency. What do I do? Limud Torah. It's gewaldig. Because when you're learning Torah, suddenly you stop that. especially if you allow yourself to get a little into it to the point where you lose your consciousness of self, and now suddenly your space is filled with the Eibishter's wants and his desires. That's what's flowing through your machshava and dibur. That's what he's saying over here. The law is sechalalu, and you don't want to make a chalal. Now Moshe Rabbeinu, he was not a halal. He didn't have even 1 minute. That's called chilul Hashem, really. You're making a halal, a space that's not Eibishter. The density of the person is blocking, is creating a space where God's Einoid Movadai is not pronounced. So chas v'sholem, it's not Einoid Movadai, yesh oid Movadai. Wa'at chas v'sholem in Avodah Zarah. Who's the Avodah Zarah? The person himself becomes an idol, becomes another God other than God. Moshe Rabbeinu lived in a state of constant bittul his entire life. From the moment he's born till 120 years old, he wasn't the Metzias. He had no self at all. He's bottled to the Eibishter B'tachlis. And where did Moshe put himself into? He put himself into the Torah. Zichri Torah's Moshe. Ki atahu koidim shenivra, because you are the one before the world was created, and you are the same after the world was created. Hu mamish beli shinoi. It's him himself without a shinoi. Now Amalek is the extreme of what? Of chilul Hashem. Amalek is the extreme of what? Of idolatry. Amalek is extreme beingness of self-importance. But how can you, what the Alter Rebbe is saying, if a Yid realizes that Atahu Koidim Shenivra Oilam, Atahu Mi Shenivra Oilam, it's only Eibush there, so then he has a problem. The very notion that I'm thinking something that's serving me. I'm thinking my thoughts. If I'm talking what's my opinion, my ideas, myself. So I'm expressing a being other than God. So you have an Eitzah. What's your Eitzah? So your machshava and dibur should not be your machshava. It shouldn't be your dibur. Let the Eibishter's machshava and dibur come through you. Ela bittul hu. So what then is the bittul? B'chachma tata. Hu Torah shebal peh. So when you sit down for a half an hour and you learn a Perek Rambam, you learn a Perek Mishnayos, you're learning the Eibishter's will. Ela bittul b'chachma tata, in the lower chachma. Who Torah shebal peh, which is Torah shebal. It's called the lower chachma because Torah shebeksav is the higher chachma. Torah shebal peh is the chachma tata. Me'olam v'yad olam. It's the Eibishter's a chachma that comes down from world to world, because you might say, come on, Torah Shebal Peh is talking about physical things. How can it be the Eibishter's chachma? It's chachma tata. The Eibishter's chachma is enclosed from chachma Allah into chachma tata, and the chachma tata descends from world to world. Malchus the Yetzira. Malchus the Yetzira is, by the way, Mishnah is called Malchus of Yetzira. Atik, which is the Atik, it's the crown la'asiya, to the world of Asiya. The chachma, the nukva, the Asiya, and the chachma of Malchus, of the world of Asiya, hi ha-Torah shelefanenu. That's the Torah that we learn, Isser v'heter. All the laws of, all the gashmi. In other words, because the Torah manifests on many, many levels. The Torah that we're learning, Isser v'heter, that which is prohibited and permitted, kosher, non-kosher, all these laws, it's an Olam Asiyah, but it's the Chachma of the Eibishter in Olam Asiyah. So it's the Chachma of the Shechina, Nukva, is the last level, Malchus of Asiyah. The wisdom, so it's really, and we know that all the Spherais, even the ones that come down in Olam Asiyah, are linked up with the Spherais and Atzilus, which are totally one with the Eibishter. So when you're learning the halachas, even though you're learning them in a physical form, it's still the Eibishter's machshava and the Eibishter's dibur. So you know what happens at that moment? There's no yesh, there's no you there. It's Eibishter there. And you know what you did right now? You just countered Amalek. You just gave Amalek a tremendous setback. You know why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu entered the battlefield. All day long, Amalek is busy for the rain to wake up. But now, for the time that you learn, and it's going to have impact on you. You know what the impact is? Even when you're not learning, and even not davening, you'll have more bittul to the Eibishter. It's an amazing vitamin, an empowerment. Take the spiritual multivitamin when every day when you do your limud Torah. Especially, it's a good thing to say before you're learning. Eibishter, I'm learning so that my ratzon, the I, me, and my will should be overtaken, should be canceled in you and in your will. And you say that every time before you learn a little Torah Shabbal Peh. You're saying, I want to get the Eibishter's right. It's a lashon that says batil ritzaynai mipnei ritzayncha. And how do you mevatel your ratzon? For his ratzon, through limud Torah, you're learning his ratzon that will cancel your ratzon. And the anoichi Hashem Elokecha is going to become more real to you than your own anoichi. Your ani, your I, your capital I, become a little smaller. And let's shrink a little smaller. And the Eibishter's I will become much, much bigger. And that's what we want. And this is the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu has to make the tzitz. Because as long as Amalek's wall is standing, as long as Amalek, as the ego stands, Aaron HaKohen, who's trying to channel this great, powerful love into your neshama, is bouncing off what? Bouncing off this wall. It's not getting through. You, Moshe Rabbeinu, tzitz, you should make this tzitz, you should make this ray, mate tzitz, you should make this, the tzitz is really Aaron's love, but Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that allows the mate tzitz of Aaron's neshama, of Aaron of Roya, to come and to stimulate, because he removes Moshe Rabbeinu's power of Torah that he gives us. That's what erases the Amalek, allowing the tzitz of Aaron to shine. You should make it, but it says male, as opposed to another word where you have similar to tzitz, but it's female. Tzitzis. Tzitzis is female tzitz, and tzitz is male. And what's the difference? Both of them represent a shine. Tzitz means a lashon of a flash of light, a tzitz, but masculine tzitz means a light coming from above. Feminine tzitz means a shining from below. And what is that? What's the difference? The difference of limud Torah and tefillah. Prayer is what? Milmata l'mayla. When you're davening, you're seeking out God. When you're learning, the Eibishter is seeking out you. You're just suspending. In davening, you're talking to him. In learning, he's talking to you. So this is a ha'ara coming from above. Here, the way you are canceling your ego is by allowing milmayla lamata, from above down, the Eibishter's light to come into your neshama. Vasisa tzitz lashon zachar ha'ara shenimshach milmayla, a ha'ara that comes from above. Ma she'en kein tzitzis lashon nekeva, which isn't the case with tzitzis lashon nekeva, hu milmata lamayla. That is from below upward. B'pchinas tefillah, in the idea of tefillah. Ayin b'tamei mitzvahs Reb Chaim Vital, Parshas Tetzaveh, mitzvahs tzitz, in which he compares the tzitz to the tzitzis and explains the difference between them. I think so. I would imagine that's what he's talking about. But then check it out. Aval Torah u'mamayla lamata. But from Torah is from above. See, the mamayla lamata is always the coolest thing to do. Because you don't have to, like, mata lamayla is like much harder. Because you are really using your own powers to get out of your darkness. Mamayla lamata is you're basically just pushing the download button and allowing the Eibishter to download into you. And that's it. Avol toiro mamayla lamata. It's from above down. Ha bittel v'lo yisachalalu. You're downloading bittel v'lo yisachalalu, and in order that what? That you shouldn't be a chalal. You shouldn't be. Mata lamayla, not to be a chalal, is much harder, because it means you have to bring yourself to an awareness that you're not an ego, you're not a metzias. That's really hard. It takes a lot of work to get out of your ego. But here, a person can be very, very, very self-aware and very, very consumed with self, but you can still suspend it and say, you know what, let Torah take over for a while. For who hazelu umazeh shekeneged Amalek, and this is the force against Amalek. And this allows for the giloi to happen, for the hisgalus of the Eibishter in your neshama. What does he mean? It allows, but he says something new that we didn't learn yet. He says this brings about the giloi of the yutke in the vavke. Why? Because we know that the Eibishter says, Ein Hashem Sholem, ve'ein HaKisei Sholem, ad sheyamache zarei shel Amalek. That Amalek doesn't allow for God's name to be complete. What does it mean he doesn't allow for God's name to be complete? Yud Kei Vav Kei. The pasuk says, "Milchama ki yad al keis ka." There is a hand on God's throne. Milchama la'Hashem ba'Amalek midor l'dor. So Chazal say like this. In this pasuk, it doesn't say. It should have said ki yad al keis havaya. There is a hand on Kisei Hashem, on the Kisei of Yud Kei Vav Kei. It doesn't say that. It says there is a hand on the throne of Yud Kei. What happened to Hashem's name? Why is Hashem only half? So Chazal say that's Amalek. As long as Amalek is here, there is a blockage, and you only have a half of Hashem's name. Yud Kei without the Vav Kei. Another thing Chazal say, the pasuk should have said Ki Yod al Kisei Ka Havaya. It says Ki Yod al Kes. It's missing the aleph. So Chazal say Ein HaKisei Sholem. The throne of Hashem is not complete. The Ein Hashem Sholem, and the name is not complete. So what does this mean? What's a kisei? What's a throne? A throne is where a king sits. So if we say the king is God, and his throne is where he sits, what does the Eibishter sitting mean? God is not a person to sit. What happens when a person sits down? First of all, they're resting. They're standing, they're not resting. You sit down, you're resting. But number two, when you're sitting down, you're lowering yourself. So what's the idea of Kisei HaKavod? The Eibishter has a seat. The fact that God lowers himself into the creation. The whole idea of Asuli Migdash V'shachanti B'seicham, that the Eibishter dwells amongst the Jewish people. And we know that B'toicham doesn't mean just a physical location. B'toicham means, it doesn't say B'toichai, B'tocham, B'toich kol echad v'echad. That's what the Shloah HaKadosh says. And that the Al-Shach HaKadosh. That B'soicham, B'toich kol echad v'echad, inside every single Jew, the Eibishter dwells. So the idea of a kisei is when the Eibishter can dwell, fully shine inside of us. What does it mean the Eibishter dwells inside of you? That's what we learned earlier in the Maayon. If you're consumed with God, if you feel God, that means God is shining in your neshama. You feel his love to you. You're loving him with powerful love. The two of you, he's shining inside of you. You're in a relationship. And then it's what? Kisei. What did we say Amalek doesn't allow? Amalek gets in the way. You can learn, you can understand, you can do all the preparations. And what? But it doesn't register where the heart remains cold, indifferent. The emotions don't get excited. Why? Because Amalek serves, by the way, Amalek is from the word Malak. Malika is when you cut the head of a bird off from the rest of the thing. It's called Malika. Amalek, when a person is infected with Amalek, you basically have holy heads with corrupted bodies. Because Amalek Yodeya, he knows. It's not like he doesn't know. He knows all the information. His head is holy. And who's Amalek, a grandson? Who's Amalek Zeda? Esav. Esav had a holy head. He knew everything. That's why Esav's head was Zeicha to be buried with Yitzchak. He had a holy head. He knew everything. His brother was Yaakov. He knew Shas and Poskim Esav. Altsgivus, Chassidus too, Kabbalah too. But it didn't impact his behavior. He remained a bulvan. He remained a monster, whatever, a killer, a murderer, or whatever, every type of avera in the world. Even though he knew it all, because he had a powerful divide between his intellect and his thing. Why? Because he didn't have, the das wasn't operating. Because he had a grandchild, Amalek, so obviously Amalek was part of Esav, so he couldn't allow what is up here to come down over here. Now the Yud Kei is up here. The Vav Kei is down here. The Yud and the Hey is Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina. Vav and the Hey, Vav is the 6 emotions. And the Hey is thought, speech, and action. The last Hey is Malchus, which is thought, speech, and action. When a Yid is a healthy Jew, and Amalek, and he's not farklipet with Amalek. He doesn't have Amalek infection. So two things are in him. Number one, kisei. The Eibishter has a kisei. The Eibishter dwells within him. What's the kisei? The aleph is alufay shaloylam. That's the aleph. And when you take the aleph with the chaf and the saf, it becomes the chaf and the samach becomes kisei. The Eibishter dwells inside of him. And when the Eibishter dwells inside of a Jew, you have the intelligence, the yud k, and every year is a chelek havaya amoy. A yid has the yud, the hey, the vav k. They're all healthy. They're all full manifest godliness within the Jews neshama. When Amalek comes in chas v'shalom as a klipa, what is that? Extreme self-importance, inflated of self. By the way, the Alter Rebbe, it's not for ladies. Ladies, this doesn't apply to ladies. It only applies to men, this part. The Alter Rebbe in the previous Maayon says that when men, it doesn't say when men, but I'm saying he says, I imagine it doesn't talk about women. Because women are out of this. That when a person faputzach with his clothing, that's what he says. When a person is very, very into being very dressed well and so on and so forth, that's all projecting his metzias. And even he says, even though it's bechitzayis, it's not like, I'm an action and I have to win every fight. He's not. Feels very. I'm not talking about just being dressed menschlich. It's talking about being trying to draw attention to oneself with one's clothing and so on and so forth. That's what. That's all an inflation of self-importance. When a person has that yeshus, which is that amalek, so what that does is it doesn't allow the intellectual information to reach the heart. So two things. The aleph goes away, which is the alufay shaloylam. The Eibishter runs away where there's yeshus. Where there's inflated self, God is not there. Like it says in the pasuk, the Gemara says, "Eina nivahu yachallah." That where a person who's arrogant, the Eibishter cannot. Kol mi sheyesh by gasas haruach. Gasas haruach is amalek, thickness of spirit, density. Eina nivahu, the Eibishter him can't dwell. So the Eibishter goes away. So the aleph departs, and what's left? Case. Instead of a kisei, it becomes case. What's case? Case means a kisoy, a block. With the aleph, it's a kisei. Without the aleph, it's just a block. And where does the block? Between the yud k and the vav k. So even though there is a yud k, the yud k is not developing into a vav k. So from oiven a person could be a malach, and from below he can be a galach. He's totally not. Okay. And we know from all the stories on the news that the galachim are not too holy. In any case, so there is no synchronization between what? The upper human and the lower human. The emotions are not synchronized with the intelligence. That's the disconnect. So therefore, he's saying over here, take a look. Hold on. Hold on. But when you bring in Moshe Rabbeinu, and what does Moshe Zichru Teiras Moshe? Nimshach li is gili yudke bevavke. The yudke could reconnect with the vavke. Hainu ba'ava v'yira, which can create true love and true fear, and a yid is fully manifest and fully connected to the Eibishter. V'zehu, and that's the reason sheMoshe hu ha'oisa hatzitz, and that's the reason why the power of Moshe Rabbeinu is to make the tzitz. He is the one that enables the meitzitz of Aaron, the shining of Aaron to shine through. Or as the Lashon in the previous Maimer is, he is the one who makes the cracks in the wall. Meitzitz, where is the meitzitz? Min acharakim, from the chaloinos and the windows? Okay, you're not going to get rid of your ego, but at least make cracks in that ego. At least make holes, make bigger, make windows, so that the Eibishter can come through. Moshe Rabbeinu, he is a window maker. What's the ad? Who makes the windows? California Windows. They always give that ad on the radio. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the window maker. He gives us that ability of having bittul to burrow through the ashes of Amalek. The Asa Shapir, now, it seems like, and I told you already a few times, that the Alter Rebbe wrote, not he didn't write, but it's the teachings of the Alter Rebbe. The Ha'aris are the Ha'aris of the Tzemach Tzedek. Now, usually the Tzemach Tzedek's Ha'aris are not found in Torah Or, mainly in Likutei Torah, the second half. But sometimes you have certain Maimarim where you have Ha'aris of the Tzemach Tzedek even inside Torah Or, and here's one of them. And he gives you a whole bunch of Kabbalistic ideas of why the Tzitz is dafka related to Moshe, the power that blasts, nullifies, and destroys Amalek. It goes, it's consistent and it fits well based on what Reb Chaim Vital says. Sham, in where? In the mitzvah of Tzitz, this week in the parsha. Shah Tzitz, that what's the Tzitz? Hu nimshach memoichin da Abba. The Tzitz comes from the mochin of Chachma. Shezeu b'chenas Moshe, which is Moshe. Because we know Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama is rooted in Chachma. Moshe is called Yesod Abba, the Yesod element of Chachma. Gam l'mayla yoser. Now, if we trace this even higher, this is if in the range of the Spheros, Moshe Rabbeinu is rooted in Chachma, and therefore the Tzitz, that's a radiance of Chachma energy, which is Bittel. Chachmas Koyach Ma, it's related to Moshe. Okay. V'gam l'mayla yoser, if you want to trace it to a higher level. B'mitzcha de erech anpin. Now the Tzitz, till now we were speaking about the Tzitz is on the Metzach of Aaron, and we learned earlier that Aaron is the Ze'er Anpin. If the Metzach is Ze'er Anpin on the Spheros, the Midos, but there is also a Metzach in Erech Anpin. Erech Anpin means the big face in Keser. On that level, what's the Tzitz? Hine Meir Sham B'chinas Das the Erech Anpin. In the Metzach of Erech Anpin shines the Das of Erech Anpin. V'gam zeu B'chinas Moshe. And this too is the level of Moshe, Sheshar Shoy B'chinas Das Elyon. Whose Moshe Rabbeinu's root is in the supernal Das. V'zeh ha'mevatel l'b'chinas Amalek. And this is the bittul for Amalek. Even though, hold it, didn't we say that Amalek can contradict Das? You can't fight Amalek through Das. You have to fight Amalek through Chachma. Because Amalek has Das. And what does he do with the Das? Yedeas Riboinoi, u'meskavan limred boy. So what are you going to gain if you bring in the power of Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the power of Das? Nah, it depends which level of Das. There's two levels of Das. There's Das Tachtoin and there's Das Elyon. Lower Das and higher Das. Amalek can only contradict the lower level of Das, not the higher Das. Shehurak keneged Das Tachtoin. Amalek corresponds only to the lower Das. Shamhu mastiru machase. That's where he can obscure and that's where he can block. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu can't. What does this mean exactly? I don't know. And higher, hine shem ma hameir b'mitzcha da adam kadmon. The name ma of 45 that's shining in the metzach of Adam Kadmon. The Klippa hates 45. By the way, you should know they hate 45. That's why today I received in the mail a pamphlet. You know what it said? It said, be from the first 1,000 people signing up for the last day of 45. They're already counting when the 45th president of the United States is going to be. They're waiting. Race with 45. And it's so funny that everything that the Klippas develop, they don't even know. That's the thing. Yada v'lo yada ma'ika amro. They don't know why they're saying it, but they're saying things because of their shorish. So if they don't like Trump, so fight him. They say they impeach 45. Because the whole Geula and the whole Mashiach and the whole ultimate truth is Galus of Shema in 45. It's manifesting in Taka and someone who's breaking a lot of the clip. But they can't handle it, especially in California. It's Clipperfornia. They don't know what to do here and in New York, two coasts. They vesen ich was satan, Clipper 45, fighting tooth and nail. So, but he says the Shema Hameir b'mitzchadak. Zeu gam kein b'chinas Moshe. Even on a higher level, the name again. V'zeu shama v'nachnu ma, and we are ma, the power of bittul. K'mo shekosem makamachar al pasik Moshe yedaber. Elachein nemar loy dafka. Now, and again, he's speaking three dargis in why Moshe Rabbeinu Kabbalistically is the source that counters Amalek, And I'm sure we can have an entire mimer explaining those three dargas. And again, I'm going to tell you that I have no idea what these three dargas are and why he's mentioning all three. There must be some deep understanding over here that I don't know. That's why it says dafka to Moshe Rabbeinu make it tzitz. Shehi ha'ora ha'meir b'pchinas mitzcha hanal. That's the radiance. That's the tzitz. That's the radiance that's shining. B'pchinas mitzcha hanal. B'pchinas das elyon shalamayla masar. You know, what I don't have clear in what it seems to be, what's it called again? Still blurry in my mind. Is in the mimer itself, and it's also mashma later, it's mashma that the tzitz itself is Aaron. It's Aaron's tzitz. It's Meir, Aaron. It's the Avarab. It's the great love that comes from Aaron's neshama to us. Moshe Rabbeinu is only the one who's misalik, the koisel, the wall, the mechitza. Through his power, he's removing the block, allowing that Aaron should be made tzitz. Here it's mashma. Shehi ha'ora ha'meir b'pchinas mitzchanal b'pchinas das elyon shalamayla ma'asaga. That's Moshe Rabbeinu's light. I'm not exactly sure. V'chein shem ma ha'bitl b'metzias. Shem ma that's bottle in metzias. Shezeh dafka ha'mevatel b'chinas ha'malek. Referring to the last two things that he said. Ma is mevatel ha'malek, and also das elyon, the higher das, because Amalek is only a contradiction to the lower das. Who's another anakel of Amalek? Is Haman. And why do we see the characteristics of Haman? Haman was completely so self-absorbed. He wanted everybody to bow down to him. The moment he heard that there was somebody that the king wants to honor, what was his thought process? It's all about self. So, that he's a yesh. Now, by the way, you should know that it appears in Haman, but the Alter Rebbe is showing over here in the Maimer that it's shaykh in Yidden's Avodah, like real. He says this that a Yid sometimes feels. He says, look at these words. V'kachohu b'chol adam, every person can have Amalek. Shelo yuchal lizboil mi sheyeh gadol mimenu. Person can't handle that there's a bigger lamdan in shul than him. He's trying, he's going every day, he's learning his Gemara, he's like that, and then he can't handle that there is someone outdoing him in shul, that he's the big alam. Quietly, he will never say it, but in his heart, it's a brentim. Let's not say dafka that. It can be also that someone who's davening ba'avodah and he can't handle that seif kosef, he's not the ultimate mashpia. Quietly, not in he feels it. People, sometimes they can't, that someone is getting more recognition for whatever it is than him. So that's the be'ena lekim va'adam. Either the Eibishter loves someone, like Cain and Hevel. Cain couldn't understand, couldn't bear that the Eibishter paid attention to Hevel and not to him. It's all tracing the same klippa. So we were holding it, yeah. The Haman, that Haman is a yesh. So, how do you fight Haman? Total bittul. Lamata. That's the power that fights Haman. And what is the tzitz made out of? Now we go back into the mimer. This was a little interfusion, let's put it, interjection from the Tzemach Tzedek. Now we go back into the mimer. What was the tzitz made out of? Zahav tar, pure gold. What does that mean? We know that gold and silver both represent love. Silver, Meloshin kesef, nichsoif nichsafti, longing. And gold is also. The difference is also, sometimes it says that gold is fear, yira, and kesef is love. Sometimes it explains that the two madregas in love. One is ava kamayim, love like water, and the other one is ava karish be'esh. If you look at gold, gold is intense. Gold is fire. And it has that fiery, the intensity in it. So gold, the love of gold means a very, very fiery love. And that's what we say. When you remove the mechitza shel barzol and you allow the tzitz to shine, what kind of love are we talking about emanating from Aaron's neshama? A love that's going to put you on fire. What does Aaron do? Aaron doesn't pour water. He does it on Sukkot. But what does he do regularly? He lights the menorah. He kindles the fire. That's why, what's the tzitz made out of? Zahav tar, which represents this ava karish pe'esh, flaming love. Zahav tar hainu gam keim chenas rish pe'esh. That's the fiery love, mashen ken kesev ava kamayim, which isn't the idea of silver, which is love, but mellow love. It's like the difference between a love that there is between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, which is intense, fiery love, and the love that there is between a sister and a brother or two brothers. They like each other, but it's not fiery. So we have a certain love with Hashem, and we always feel that we can rely on Him. We feel close to Him. We feel it. That's one kind of love. Then there's another kind of love that a person is burning with desire to break the bit, to cover, to bridge the gap that there is between himself and the Ein Sof. It's burning. Now on this tzitz, what you should engrave, engraved like a signet ring. So what are these engravings? What's the engraving on the tzitz? What did we say earlier? What's the tzitz made out of? From Moshe Rabbeinu. It's made up of, it's coming from Moshe. Vasisa, you're making it. Now Moshe Rabbeinu is the madrega of Chachma, Koyach Ma, the power of Chachma, which is where? Inside Torah. Torah is Chachma. The Eibush to the Orein Tzayf is Shayra in Chachma. In Torah. Torah comes from the Eibush to Chachma. But, as I mentioned earlier, the Torah in its essence is a concept. It's an idea. It's a divine concept. It's not words. But then, when the Chachma goes into Bina, it starts to manifest as words. It's like in the process when you have a chachma, and every time you're learning something, when you have a chachma experience, it's a flash of insight. But once you pass that flash of insight into your bina, what does bina do? It starts analyzing it, and bina is already a world full of words, full of oisiyos hamachshava. So it's Torah, but the second level of Torah. It's Torah as it's already coming now, and we know that chachma and bina are trein rein. The loy misparsha, they're two friends that never separate. So you have that nakuda, that flash, but then you have to have the oisiyos, the words. And those are the oisiyos of the engraved oisiyos on the tzitz. And the petuche choisam em oisiyos the bina. These are the letters of bina. Yesoid the ema. The yesoid, the ability, yesoid of ema, is the ability for ema, for bina, to receive the light of chachma. Yisoid is always there. The yisoid of the female, the yisoid of bina, is her ability to connect to the male, which means her ability to receive, and that's through the oisiyos. In the oisiyos of bina comes the light of the concept. The content of the idea goes into the letters, into the words. You have to have the words. Shaboy nitztayru oisiyos. That's where the letters come. Ki arei chachma hu b'chinas barak. The chachma is like a flash without letters. It's just a flash of energy. The ein bashum tumuna doesn't have any, and the same is up there in the divine. Chachma is a flash of Orein Sof, a flash of divine truth. And where is it captured in the hundreds of words that there is in Mishnayos, in Rambam, in Gemara, in Tosfos, in Rashi, in all those holy words, which are the words of Bina. That's why it says when the Eibishter created the world, He created it with three things: B'Sofer, and Sefer Yetzirah. B'Sofer, B'Sefer, or B'Sipur. Sofer is the author. The scribe was the author, and that's Chachma. And Sefer is Bina. Bina is called Sefer because what's the Sefer? The book is already letters, words. Rakabina hu yesh, and Bina is already a yesh, which means things. Chachma is still fluid. Chachma is compared to water; it's fluid. It doesn't have yet shape and form. But once you put it into Bina, into oisiyos, what happens to oisiyos? Oisiyos are fixed, defined. It's these letters, these words. Rak Bina hu yesh, v'shayach by b'chinas oisiyos, and there's oisiyos. Ki oraisa ma'chachma nafkes. The Torah really originates in Chachma beyond oisiyos. When the slapsha b'Bina was enclosed in Bina, Shem Terein Rei, and that's what I said earlier, that two friends that always remain together. So the main akud is like this. You want to get Moshe Rabbeinu's emes of Orein Soif, which comes through extreme bittul. But we need to grab it through something. We can't take it in its ethereal, abstract, fluidy, watery state. The way you have it is you open up a sefer, you learn those holy oisiyos, but you should know that these oisiyos are petuchei chaisam. They're engraved letters. What does that mean? V'zeh inyan soifer v'sipor. The soifer, the scribe, he doesn't say sefer, and the sipor, the story of the words. That's in the bina. What happened with sefer? It's interesting that he skips the sefer. Soifer, I understand, is chachma. Sipor is bina. So where is this? What's the sefer? Usually it says that bina is the sefer. So I'm not sure. For oisiyos elu, and these oisiyos hem kidmus chaisem. They're in the image of engraved letters. Hachakuk b'shaiva. So when you take letters and you carve them out in wax. So wax is perfect to indent letters. It's soft enough that you can indent the letters perfectly, right? So shenechkak shem Avraham. So let's say you engrave or imprint in the name Avram al derech mashal. So when you take a look at the name Avram, and let's say you're writing Avram, whatever, Finkelstein. So you have a specific Avram, and his name is signed. That's a signet. It's a signature. It's signed in the wax. So the Eina me'erech u'mehus Avram atzmai. Does it have anything of this Avram Finkelstein? No, but it's still his name. And if he signed it, he's obligated in everything. He can be held accountable. He can be sued. He can be everything, because what? It's almost like he transmits his very self in his signature that he puts down over there. So even though it's in what? It's a piece of wax. It's not Avram. But in there is indented these oisiyos, and it's in a sense a continuation of him. He is in those letters even though it's not him. He's trying to say over here, the Eibishter is so much higher than even Chachma. Chachma Vatzilus is called Asiya, guys, like a piece of wax. But it's still the Eibishter's, it's not him, but yet it's him, just like a signature. It's like a chaysam. It says about Torah, Chasamei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emes. The Eibishter's signet is truth. If it ain't Emes, Ela Torah. So that's the Eibishter's sign. So even though on the one hand, the Richuk HaErech from anything other than Orein Soif is Kulam B'Chachma Asisa, that even Chachma is called Asiya. For sure, Bina, but even Chachma is called Asiya. So here, the Torah is just like Avram, the relationship of Avram to his signature on the wax. The same is also the Eibishter, the Orein Soif, to the Torah. But still, it's still him. Following? Just like when a person puts their in order for there to be chachma, that even chachma is called an asiyah. It's called only an asiyah to the Eibishter. Like we also know, an amazing thing. How do you know that chachma is infinitely removed from the Eibishter himself? From this that we say that you're supposed to learn Torah Lishma. And there's a very deep meaning of what it means Torah Lishma. It doesn't mean only to connect to the Eibishter. Torah Lishma on the highest level means you're learning Torah Lishma for her sake. For whose sake? For the sake of the Torah. By learning Torah properly, what you're really doing is you are embellishing the Torah and you're enhancing the Torah. How does a human being enhance the Torah? The Torah is the Eibishter's Chachma. The answer is the Eibishter is infinitely above Chachma. And when a Yid, here's an amazing thing, when a Yid invests himself in Torah, that causes the Eibishter, the Orein Sof, also to invest in Torah. So when a Yid is learning Torah, he's doing the Torah a favor. Obviously, this is a very high level of Limud Torah. Most of the times when we learn Torah, the Torah is doing us a favor, especially like we learned earlier. We're stuck in our own ego. We are an idol a full-fledged avodah zarah, walking around, blocking the emes of Einoid Mulvadoi. The Torah is doing us a favor so that we can clear our ego and allow the Eibishter's emes to flow through us. That's on a lower level. The Gemara says, I think Reb Zera said, Mikara, not Reb Zera, I forgot it, the Gemara, the Tanya brings it from someone. Mikara, in the beginning, ki avad, when a person is learning, adaita de nafshe. He's doing it for himself. Meaning to help himself out. But once a Yid learns, gets on a high level, he's doing adarabah. He's doing the Torah a favor by learning the Torah. Because he's mamshech the oirin soif in Torah. So from this idea, the Alter Rebbe deduces that what? That the Eibishter is really infinitely higher than Torah. Look what here. Kinoida, as it is known, me'inyan esek ha-Torah l'shma, from learning Torah l'shma, l'shem ha-Torah atzma. You're learning Torah for the sake of the Torah. Liyois Torah hislapshus ein seif b'chachma, so that the Eibishter should be mislabish in chachma. L'chein nikra choisam. That's why it's called a choisam. It's like you're imprinting letters on the wax. The wax is not. The wax is what? An entity other than the person that's putting their signature in the wax. But once the person puts their signature, it's as if they invested themselves, their name, their very identity into that wax. So now, Petuche Choisam, that's the Torah. That's Petuche Choisam. That's the Tzitz, that's made out of Zav Torah, which is made up, and it's the letters of the Torah. So what's the Tzitz? It seems an interesting combination. The Tzitz is the Ava, but it's trying to figure out exactly who the Tzitz is. If the Tzitz is Aaron, then it's not the Torah. Is Moshe, unless you say Moshe v'Aaron, they're mamish intertwined. It seems like the main idea of the Tzitz is Lehei Tzitz, as Oira Ava, the light of the love. But what is it made out of? And that's why it's made out of Zav Torah, which Zav Torah is fiery love. But what is the Tzitz But what is the Tzitz meant to be? Meitzitz. It's meant to break through the barrier. He spoke earlier. It's meant to break through the barrier. And how do you break through the barrier? Through bittul. And that bittul is the energy of Moshe. That's why Moshe makes it. And it's also petuchei choisam. It's letters of Torah. Exactly to. And what do you put on it? Kodesh Lashem. But for that, in order to know what Kodesh Lashem is, we have to take a little break. Say Al Chaim. I'm not going to say what else. And then we're going to continue. Chavri, you have a choice. Yossi came right on time. You can have cholent, yaptzik, or kishke. All three is on the menu tonight. And that's why I'm saying to all the people who watch online that they can get all the Chassidus, but you have to show up physically. Yes. Yeah. What? Thursday night shir. So if you go to the podcast, you have to find the Thursday night share, and once you subscribe to that, you get every single week. Sure.
Don't say it because somebody's going to hear it and think it's real. What will it be? No, it wasn't. greatest thing. Huh? No, in Chabad. Almost everybody to the 10th wedding gives between 20 and 40 shekels for a minimum. That people do more. Huh?
Okay, guys, party is over. Okay, Kodesh Lashem. So what's written on the Tzitz? So on the Tzitz it's written Kodesh Lashem, and we learned Amar Chazal say Kodesh Lamed Lamata, that the way the Tzitz was written was engraved. The Kodesh and the Lamed is below, Havaya Mol Maila, and the Yud Kei Vav Kei is above. Tehine, what does that mean? So we spoke earlier that in order for the Tzitz, which is the power to eliminate, to nullify, to destroy the wall that Amalek sets up, you have to access Chachma energy, Chachma, the power of Moshe Rabbeinu. We need the power of Anshe Moshe manifesting through Limud HaTorah Bebittel. Now, part of Limud HaTorah Bebittel means that you learn Torah, and he brought earlier the Maimer Chazal, that if someone, he wanted to explain how there is Limud HaTorah that's not Bebittel. Limud HaTorah that's not Bebittel doesn't have the effect that it's supposed to have. And that's why he brought Chazal say, Oimer ein li elo Torah, afilo Torah ein lo. If someone only has Torah, which means he doesn't translate to Maisa, to action. So you see, Limud HaTorah b'Bittul means that you're learning Torah with Bittul, and if Torah says something, you should do something, that's what you do. So you're living according to it. So therefore, Limud HaTorah has to lead also to Kiyum HaMitzvahs. So he's now going to introduce Kiyum HaMitzvahs into the equation. Part of the making of the Tzitz, part of the substance of the Tzitz, number one, the Tzitz is made up of Petuchei Choisam. It's made up of letters. The letters are the letters of the Torah. But in addition to and what do the letters of the Torah do? They bring Chachma energy, and what's inside Chachma, the Orei Sof? They channel Chachma and the Orein Soif into the person. But the fact that they're coming in letters, why does it have to come in letters? What did we say earlier? Chachma is still too ethereal, it's still abstract. When it goes into Bina makes it a yesh. It's more of a keli, you can receive it, it's makabalit. So therefore that's called an or pnimi, an internal light, because you're taking it in. And we know that the power of Torah is exactly that. Torah is the ability to internalize Getlachkeit. Eibishter, leis machshava tvisa bei, the Eibishter can't be grasped in anything. In Torah, you're grasping him and you're internalizing it. You're making the Eibishter, the Orein Soif, your seichel. Total fusion. That's called or pnimi. That's why it says, v'teirascha b'toich me'ai. The Torah is in my stomach. Because just like food, what happens to food? Food gets, you eat it, you digest it, it becomes you. So the Torah becomes the person. So that's the petuche choisam, that's the letters element of the Torah. But the inscription of those letters is Kodesh Lamed. You know what Kodesh Lamed is? Kodesh Lamed is Asiyas HaMitzvahs. Because when we do a mitzvah, we say Asher Kiddishanu. What's the difference? Mitzvahs give us levushim. Torah gives us, Torah is called food. I think we spoke about it last week too a little bit in the shir. Torah is food. Mitzvahs is a levush, is a garment. Why? Because mitzvahs, you don't understand the mitzvah. You're surrendering to the mitzvah. The godliness of the mitzvah comes from keser. The godly, Torah is chachma, mitzvahs is keser. That's why how many mitzvahs are there? 613 plus 7, the Rabbanan. 620, Gematria Keser. Mitzvahs is the Orein Soif HaSoivev Kol Almin. When you're doing mitzvahs, you're drawing down Ropshetz. I won't freeze, huh? Thank you. Yeah, thanks enough. Chaim. It's okay, I have this. And then I have the rest of that. Okay. So what's the Hezbollah? Again. Torah is petuchei choisam. The whole idea of a signet is that it's letters. Letters means you're able to, it's coming into kalim. Mitzvahs, in a sense, remains beyond kalim. You can't grasp it. You're surrendering. The godliness of a mitzvah is higher than the person. And that's why it's called kedusha. What does kodesh mean? Kedusha means malashon muvdal, anything that's separated from you. So kodesh is what? The level of what? Of elokus, that's soivev kol almin. And choisam, petuche choisam, is that which is the orpnimi that's coming in. The ray, the tzitz, which is coming from Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't only give us Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu also gave us mitzvahs, because in the Torah is the mitzvahs. So when we speak about Moshe Rabbeinu's influence in Vasisa tzitz, making the tzitz, Moshe puts his inyanim into the tzitz. What? He puts Torah in, which is what? Petuche choisam, and mitzvahs too. And that's the kodesh lamed, that's it. So it's interesting. The letters, the very idea that they're letters represents the or pnimi. But what's written, those very letters themselves, is kodesh, something that's moved out. It actually fits very well Torah. It doesn't say it, but I'm thinking. Torah is or pnimi, but what are you learning about Torah? The or pnimi of Torah is all about, what's the content? About how to do a mitzvah. Think about it. All of Torah, which is or pnimi, is to teach you how to do a mitzvah, which is or makif. So that's the mamish what's happening over here. The actual petuche choisam, the letters that are engraved, which means engraved letters especially show you a keli. There's actually an indent. The letters are indented. So that's, or in this case it's emboldened, but there is the idea that it's a keli. That's the Torah. But what's the content? What's written? Kodesh lamed kedusha asher kedishanu. Transcendental getlachkeit. And what's the lamed? The lamed is, he's going to explain, there's 3 levels of makifim. Usually in Chassidus, we usually learn there's 2 levels of makif. There's makif ha'karoiv and makif ha'rochaik, which correspond to the 2 levels of keser. There's erech anpin and there's atik yoimin. In a human being experience, we say that there's 2 makifim. Food is pnimi, clothing is what? Makif, and a house is another level of makif, a room, a living quarters. So these are makifim. But it seems like in the lower makif itself, not the higher makif, in the lower makif itself, there's 3 levels of makif. Where do you find that? He's going to bring in a moment that it says in the pasuk, Ach betzelem yishalech ish. A person walks betzelem. So it says in Kabbalah that the word tzelem, tzaddik, tzelem elokim, the Eibush to create is what it's tzelem. Tzelem is made up of a tzaddik lamed mem. So it says like this: the tzaddik is the or pnimi of the neshama. The nefesh ruach neshama is tzaddik. It's the indwelling light. Why 90? What does it have to do with tzaddik? But 90, maybe it's the 9 koiches nefesh, and that's the tzaddik. The lamed and the mem are 2 levels of makifim. Lamed is the lower makif, and the mem is the higher makif. But why lamed the makif? Because lamed is 30. So there's 3 levels of makif. And that's the idea of kodesh lamed. Kodesh lamed is the kodesh, transcendental, the makif. Lamed is the 3 levels of makif. So it's amazing. When a Yid is learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, allow us to read inside. Kodesh lavayim, kodesh lamed lamata vayim. We haven't gotten yet to the Yud Kei Vav Kei. What's the idea? That above that, above the kodesh lamed is havaya. What's that? We'll see in a minute. Through limud Torah becomes an indwelling light. The Torah is within my stomach, which means I'm able to absorb it. And that's the idea of engraved letters. Kalim, oisios, words, bina, kalim, it's all internalizing it. And through the mitzvahs, it's drawn the makif. V'zeu inyan kodesh lamed is the inyan of kodesh lamed. Kemaimer, what's the connection of mitzvahs to kodesh lamed? Asher kedishanu. How is kedishanu not b'toyraisav? Because Torah is not kodesh. Of course, Torah is kodesh, but the real inyan of kedusha is dafken asiyas hamitzvah. Because in Torah, it's not remaining muvdal. It's not separated from you. It's being absorbed in you, and obviously, it's showing on a madrega that's shayach to be mislabish, as opposed to mitzvahs is an infinite madrega. By the way, it explains in many places in Chassidus that there's 2 rewards. There's one reward, Gan Eden, and the second reward is Olam Haba, Tchias HaMeis. So it says an interesting thing. Gan Eden, the famous Maayon from the Rebbe. Gan Eden is be'ikr for limud HaTorah. What do they do in Gan Eden? Yeshiva Shal Ma'ila. They sit and they learn. So in Gan Eden is mainly people that are oisek on limud HaTorah. For limud HaTorah, you get Gan Eden. And what's the pleasure of Gan Eden? The same Torah you learn down here, you learn the pnimius of it. All the pnimius of Torah you learn up there in Shemayim. That's why it says, I'm laughing now. I'm sorry for a really bad joke, but okay, this is what's coming to my head right now. That's the reason why it says when they came up to Gan Eden, Olam Hafach Reisi. I saw an opposite world. What's the opposite world? Down here, all the Chabadnikim, they're learning Pnimius HaTorah. We learn Chassidus. But we're not learning Nigla. When they come there, the Gans Gan Eden is a schar for limud HaTorah. So the Mesnagdim, the Litvakis, go up there and they learned a lot of Torah. But what do they teach them over there? Only Chassidus. And Chassidim, they come up there and they say they don't let you into Gan Eden because if you don't know the Nigla, it's the Pnimius of the Nigla. So they make everybody go back and learn the Nigla. So the Chassidim are learning Nigla. The Chassidim are learning Nigla because if you're not learning the Nigla, you can't get it. And the Mesnagdim are all learning the Chassidus because they learned the Nigla down here, verstehst? That's why it's an Olam Hafach. A verkehrte Welt, a nebegekehrte Welt. So right before the shir, I met guys outside the Betaka when I went to leaders to pick up the cholent. So I met 2 chevra. I said, "Chevra, come learn Chassidus." She says, "Oh, I still have to learn Chumash." I said, "You start with Chassidus. The first thing you learn is." He said, "Well." Anyways, so come up. Anyways, it says that Gan Eden is a reward, is limud HaTorah be'ikr, and that's why not everybody goes to Gan Eden. But Kol Yisrael Yeshnem Chelik L'Olam Haba. That's Tchias HaMesim. Why Kol Yisrael? Because every Jew does mitzvahs. Afilu Poisha Yisrael, Chazal say, Maleya mitzvahs kerimain. Even the sinners of Israel are filled with mitzvahs like a rimain. Today I was in Ariel Market. He's got the nicest pomegranates. I wasn't planning to shop pomegranates. My wife didn't send me to buy pomegranates. But that was too tempting. Such big pomegranates. It says Malaya mitzvahs. Maybe that's why I had to, because we're going to talk about Malaya mitzvahs Keriman. Gezunte pomegranates. Tomorrow you can still go. I never saw such pomegranates. You give it a little pomegranate. I'm telling you, each one is like a football. In any case, so all Jews do mitzvahs, and because all Jews do mitzvahs, every Jew is going to have a chelik in Tchias HaMesim. And that's why a mitzvah you do with what? Torah you learn be'ikr with what? With your brain, which your brain is be'ikr your neshama. That's why Gan Eden is for who? For neshamas. The body, I said earlier, shuckles a little bit, okay, but that's not, it's not, Limud Torah is not a physical activity. At best, you need the body to cooperate, but it's not a physical activity. Mitzvahs is a physical action. That's why Tchias HaMesim is going to be what? For body and soul. But Chassidus says an amazing thing. What's a bigger schar? What's bigger? Tchias HaMesim is infinitely bigger than Gan Eden. How do we know? Because all the neshamas that are in Gan Eden already thousands of years, what are they going to do? They're going to make a about face, and they're going to come sliding down, shoot right down back into a body. For how long? For all of eternity. Why? Obviously, the party is going to be down here, much bigger than Gan Eden. Why? And the answer is because when Mashiach will come, will be Nizgala the Seiv of Kalam. Gan Eden is only a gilui of what? Mamala Kalam, the indwelling light of God. God as Hashem is coming down into the world of Seichel. So in Gan Eden is a world of Seichel, intelligence, higher intelligence. But then there is the Eibishter as he's not at all within the Gedarim of Seichel. The Eibishter is Orin Sof. That's captured in a mitzvah. Because what's a mitzvah? A mitzvah is not Seichel. A mitzvah is the will of the Eibishter. Torah is the Chachma of the Eibishter. Mitzvah is the Ratzin of the Eibishter. And where's it going to be in his Gala? Dafka, where? In Olam Hazeh, where we did the mitzvah. In Aguf Gashmi. So what do you see from here? Just to prove the point that we're learning over here. That mitzvahs is the Or Makif, the Kedishanu, that which is Muvdal. And Torah is the Or Pnimi. So Petuche Chaisam is the Inyan of Torah. Kodesh Lamed, Kedusha, Havdalah, separated, that's mitzvahs. And Lamed, what's the Lamed? He's going to explain it now. Kodesh, V'zehin Kodesh Lamed, Kamayim Rasha Kedushanim Mitzvahs. Kodesh, Muvdal, Shu B'chenas Makiv, which is the Makiv. V'halamed, and what's the Lamed? Hem Gimel Oiris Makifim. These are the three levels, the three lights of Makiv, the Keser Chachma Bina. Now, even though Chachma Bina is already the beginning of Or Pnimi, but it seems like the Makifim lights of Keser Chachma Bina. Within Chachma Bina, the Makif light of Chachma and the Makif light of Bina. What exactly that is, I have no clue. It's known from this idea of Tzelem. HaTzadik, who tests Spherois, the Or Pnimi. The Tzadik is the 9 Spherois. And why Tzadik? Because Shleimus of every number is times 10. So the 9 Spherois is 90. It's the Tzadik of the Or Pnimi. V'halamid hu b'chinas Makif. And the Mem is Makif to the Makif. Where he explains this idea. So you see that Lamed is in this second level, in the first level of Makif, there is 3, there's a Lamed, 3 Madregas. The Alpha PK. So if Kodesh LaHashem is so high, it's already an Ur Makif, that we're mamshach through mitzvahs. So, but yet we're saying that Havaya is what? Is higher than that. Kodesh Lamed, and then Havaya above. L'chura, if we're talking about regular Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, we know that Torah mitzvahs, that's Havaya. Yud K is Torah, Vav K is mitzvahs. Over here we're saying, Kodesh Lamed Lamata. Torah and mitzvah, the godliness that comes to you through Torah and mitzvahs Lamata. And above that, Havaya. He's going to reveal over here an amazing thing. In Havaya, there's two levels of Havaya. Havaya de Latata and Havaya de Le'ela. Where do we see that? Because it says in the Yud Gimel Midas Arachamim, Hashem Kel Rachel V'chan. 2 times Havaya. And these two levels of Havaya are so apart, meaning they're so, the higher, the one Havaya is so much removed, meaning higher and above the other Havaya, that if you look in Havaya, there's a psik taima between them. That means there's no shaykhs between them. The Giluy of Havaya Deliela is infinitely, endlessly higher than Havaya Delatata. So through Asiyas HaMitzvahs and through Torah, we're takamamshech Yud Kei Vav Kei. But the Havaya, the higher Havaya, that can't come through anything we do. It's after we do whatever we can do, and we're mamshech elokus, corresponding the buttons that we're pushing. We're downloading whatever we can download. The Eibishter gifts us with something infinitely higher, with the Gili of Havaya D'Liela, which is much higher. And it's not shayach that our Sarusa D'Latata, our evoking from below, should be able to stimulate on such high. And that's the reason why Kodesh Lamed is below, and on top of that is the Gili of Havaya. Look what he says. Even though Kodesh Lamed is so high, Ptuchei Choisam, Kodesh Lamed, Afal Piken, Kol Zehu Lamata. All of this is still below. Shezehu, why? Even though the godliness of Torah and mitzvahs is not our kedusha, it's not what we, because we know when you're learning, when you're doing a mitzvah, what's happening? You're mamshech Eibishter. Such a level of Eibishter that it's called Kodesh, kedusha. Yet, it's, this idea that he's saying over here is related to the idea that the Eibishter says, Kedoshim to you, be holy. Yachal Kamayni, Kedushas, Kedushasi Lamayla Mikdushas. That's what the Eibishter says, the Medrash says. My holiness is higher than your holiness. So Chassidus explains, when we say our holiness, we don't mean our holiness. We mean that the holiness of the Eibishter that we can be mamshech. Kedushas Chem means the Yisrusa D'Li'ela, the Yisroel from above, the tremendous divine godly light that we can draw down through our avodah. That's called Kedushas Chem, your holiness. Kedushas Si means my level of holiness that you can't download. No matter what you do, Torah, mitzvahs, you can't reach it. It comes ba'ofen of a Yisrusa D'Li'ela. It comes as a gift from above that's higher than any kind of Yisrusa D'Latata. That's the Havaya that's shoyre on the Tzitz, above the Kodesh Lamed. That means, it's almost like it says, Va'atem tachrishon, you be silent. Torah, mitzvahs, alle gut, and then realize there's something even higher, endlessly above. You just have to be silent and allow it to happen. And that's the Rinyan. All of this is below. This is the idea of what our Yisroelus milmata lamaila, from the bottom up. Nasa Yisrusa D'Li'ela. This brings down Yisrusa D'Li'ela. That's still part of Kodesh Lamed. We draw down through our avodah, whether it's Torah, whether it's mitzvahs, we draw down. V'havaya milmaila. What's the v'havaya? What's the Yud Kei Vav Kei? That's on top of the Kodesh Lamed. Hu b'china she'ein Yisrusa L'tata magasha. Is a level where the Yisrusa D'Latata doesn't reach. We can't, a level of the divine that we can't reach. Ki yesh havaya, because there's two levels of havaya, upsik tama b'neo, and there is a hefsik between them. Ki havaya ba'atzilus, because the lower havaya is an atzilus. Yud, that's chachma. V'kutzay shel yud. What's the kutzay shel yud? On top of the yud is that thorn, which is indicating on something that you can't even capture in a letter. It's just indicating something. That's keser. The kutzay shel yud roimes lekeser v'chachma. The yud and the kutzay shel yud represent keser and chachma. The yud is chachma, a pintala. Like what did we say earlier about chachma? It's a flash, it's a point. Yeah, but it's already a point. You can already conceive something. Keser is still a level that's completely beyond conception. So it's the kutzei shel yud. You just know. But still, it's already part of the olam ha'atzilus. It's already the beginnings of existence. There's another Shem Havaya. It's a way beyond all worlds. It's higher than manifesting in Atzilus and Spherois and so forth. It's mamish one with the Eibishter himself. It's not yet in a world. Why is it called Havaya? It's a source for the Havaya of Atzilus. But it's not Havaya of Atzilus. It's still way beyond that. Why? How is it a source for it? When was Atzilus Nishava? What brought about the world of Atzilus? When it arose in the Eibishter's desire to emanate it. The desire for Atzilus is the Kutzei Shel Yud. The Kutzei Shel Yud is Keser. Keser is Ratzin. The Eibishter has a Ratzin to emanate Tzviros. The Kutzei Shel Yud then becomes the source of what? Of the Yud, of the point. Then the point becomes the source of the Hey. Hey is a Spashtus. Then the Vav and then the Hey. So it's all, but all begins with the Eibishter being in the mood, so to speak. He desires and he wants to do it. V'zeu Keser d'Atzilus. This is the Keser of Atzilus. Kutzei Shel Yud. But this is still part of what? Of the lower Havaya. The Kutzei Shel Yud, the Keser, the Ratzoin Prati, that the Eibishter has, let's make Atzilus, let's begin the process of creation. Let's emanate Spherois, and this Ratzin, that's the Kutzei Shel Yud. Okay. But what's driving that Ratzin for Atzilus? He introduces a concept over here that we really have to try to figure out what this means. That where comes a Ratzin, there's a much deeper subconscious Ratzin. That's called Ratzin LeRatzin. And it's in blushing of what you're more familiar with, it's called Raiva Deraiven, which is this Gala Shabbos by Mincha. Raiva Deraiven. Keser Shebe Keser. Ratzin to a Ratzin. And what does that mean? That's what he says. Achlios Ratzin LeRatzin Zeh, to be a Ratzin to this Ratzin, whom Ebchenes Raiva de Kol Raiven. It's from the will of all wills. Atik, and that's already a level of Pnimius HaKeser called Atik. And that's where that higher Havaya is. It's the Ratzain L'Ratzain. How can you explain it? I can make up a story right now. Maybe this is shaykh to it. That's what's coming to me right now as I'm teaching. I guess I've seen it in Chassidus a little bit, but I'm sure, I'm not sure if it's true, but let's hope I'm not saying anything wrong. So, you have a lot of times a person, you have a will, you have a desire for this, you have a desire for that. Sometimes you have a situation where a person goes through some trauma and they lose all desire for anything. It's like nothing, everything becomes meaningless to them. They have no drive. They once wanted to have this project and they once wanted to have that project. And what sadly that means is that something has died very deep inside of them. And what's that? That proves to you that underlying all the individual ritzainas is a certain rutzain to live, a desire to live and to have life, and from that desire of life and so on and so forth comes, okay, now I want this and I want that. That desire, that's the underlying, it's so subtle and so subconscious. You don't know it unless it's not there, then you can sense it that it's there. In other words, you can only see it from from a person that chas v'shalom lost that ratzin, and they're kind of dead, there's no ritzainis emanating from them, because their Ravin went into Helim. It's not destroyed, but it went into complete concealment. And that's called a Raiva Deraiva. It's the will of all this. It's what's a subtle subconscious drive to be alive, and then as a result of that, to be successful, to accomplish, to do, and so on and so forth. That's the Raiva Deraiva. So it's not a Ratzin Prati. It's not yet any specific. It's just a Ratzin. It's willingness. He brings the other Maayon, Naftali Seva Ratzain. It's that first primordial Ratzain. We can uncover that place in the Eibishter. From there, every Ratzin could be. And a lot of times, here's the thing. A lot of times, if you have a certain Ratzin, and the Ratzin gets frustrated, a person has a Ritzinus to do something, but he's got so much headache, and no one is cooperating with him. Oh yeah, a lot of times situations. You want to do something. You really wanted to. But no one is cooperating. No one wants, like a family. You know what I'm saying? You want to take a family trip. And you go, you're all excited. I always have that situation. I want to go see. I'm excited. I'm an explorer. I can drive in the car 15 hours, go drive up a road, a mountain, just because I don't know what's going to be around the turn. Obviously, my wife doesn't really like that so much. And others don't like it. That's the same thing over here than over there. But I have to go explore and see and drive and go. But sometimes, you have everybody, and then you're planning, you're doing, and then everybody's just getting in the way. Everybody's got their thing. Then, it like suddenly just wipes out the whole Ratzin in you. And you can have that in many things. You have a Ratzin in something, and then so what happens? You lose your Ratzin. So how can you get the Ratzin back? The Ratzin is not there. If you can get to the Raiva, if you can open up that place, you can regenerate the Ratzin, Maayon. Because that's really where the Ratzin comes from. That particular Ratzin germinated or began with that general Ratzin. It's like when a spring dries up, you dig deeper and you get to the Maayon, to the lower, to the real spring deep underneath. You can replenish the well and replenish the waters that were there. And that's really what we do every Yom Kippur. We feel that by the time it comes the end of the year, and Chas v'Shalom, if we were not that meticulous in the Eibishter's Ratzin, it's possible that the Eibishter loses his Ratzin in the mitzvahs. Not loses. It's like not interested anymore because you're not doing it the way you should. Chas v'Shalom. So the whole Inyan of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is we want to dig and find the Raiva, the Kol Raiva. That level is called Lifnei Havaya. That's why in Yom Kippur it says Lifnei Havaya Titaru. Lifnei Havaya doesn't mean in front of Hashem. It means above Yud Kei Vav Kei. Lifnei, above and higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei. And what's that? It's also Havaya, but it's the Havaya that you can't even call Havaya, because this Havaya is so one with the Or Ein Sof, you can't even see the letters. But it's there. It's a subtle Havaya that's there because it's the mucker for Havaya. The other Havaya, the letters are distinguished. This Havaya is just Or Ein Sof, but in the Or Ein Sof is that will that's the source of all wills. Raiva the Kol Raiva. Lifnei Havaya Tatar. That Havaya manifests on the Tzitz. The Raiva the Kol Raiva. In Torah mitzvahs, we're fulfilling the Eibishter's Ratzin. But there's a certain willingness that the Eibishter just, he's present. There's no specific desire yet, but something like that. Let's read. Let's see if it fits. Achlios Ratzin the Ratzin zeu mebchenes Raiva the Kol Raiva. V'hu b'chenes atik. V'zeu vayikra havaya havaya. That's the two vayikra. He called out havaya havaya. Pirish vayikra shem havaya da'atzilus. The shem havaya of atzilus calls out es b'chenas havaya shalifnei atzilus. It really works two ways. Milmayla lamata. From up down, it's the first havaya that calls the second havaya into action. It's because the Eibishter has a willingness to have a relationship, to be involved, so that creates a Ratzon Prati to create the worlds. So it works its way down from the higher Havaya, but by Vayikra Havaya, it's the opposite. It's Moshe Rabbeinu evoking after the Chet Egel Havaya. So from the lower Havaya, he reached out to the higher Havaya. And this level, the Serusa de Latata can't arrive in that place. What does that mean? Probably means that when a person Chas v'Shalom shuts down the opposite from this desire to live, of that just desire in life, you can't evoke it. No one else. It has to come back from within themselves. Like once a person has that gilui of that has to come. That's not shaykh that a Sarusah Latata should awake that. It's there. It's mitzad the person, not, and that place there's nothing outside of him that can make a difference. It's too deep. The Kodesh Lamed, Nikra Lamata, is called below Legabe B'chenas Shem Havaya Zeh, compared to this very high, lofty level of Havaya. And that's why Taka by the Tzitz it says, L'ratzain lifnei Havaya. You hear that? It should be l'ratzon. Which ratzon? We're not dealing with ratzon. We're dealing over here ratzon de ratzon, the will to the will. Lifnei Hashem. Koloima lifnei Shem Havaya d'Atzilus. Above and beyond the Shem Havaya d'Atzilus. Oy lifnei lashon pnimius. Or lifnei means the pnimius of Havaya d'Atzilus. The inner part, it's the same Inyan. Shehua pnimius Shem Havaya. This is the real innermost. Shem Havaya is the chitzonius of this deeper level. Like it says by Yom Kippur, lifnei Havaya titaru. In front of Havaya, you will be pure. Elechein sham he tamid l'ratzain. On that plane, what does it say? V'hoya metzach ha'aron. What does the Lashon say over there? V'hoya metzach ha'aron v'nasa Aaron asavoin ha'kodshim. Aaron should carry, and from there, that's why it says Aaron will remove the sin by wearing the tzitz. He forgives the avera of the kodshim. What does that mean? Because we know that where does mechilas avainas come from? All forgiveness comes from the raiva diraiva. Like I said earlier, if the regular rutzin gets dried out because of a lack of observance, or you can re-evoke it by getting the raiva diraiva back. That's why dafka the tzitz is v'nosa Aaron carries this madrega, which comes milmaila, is nice. The yud gimel midas harachmim come from here, and what's by the noisei avein? He lifts up the sin, removes the sin. But that's the reason. But that's why it also says hu tamid l'ratzain, because the shinoi in ratzain can only be in which levels? In the particular ratzain. But in this raiva deraivan, at least by the Eibishter, it's not shaykh that there should be ever a shinoi. In other words, sometimes there can be a blockage in the manifestation of the ratzon, of this ratzon, to manifest into the ratzon prati, into the individual keser. That's where there can be a pagam. But in this ratzon, lir ratzon, in this very deep place, it's tamid la ratzon. Over there, it's always, there's no dinim in that place. There's no halamas festerim. There's no judgments there. The Eibishter never, chas v'shalom, like when we say it, loses that ratzon. Like we would say, I gave an example of an extreme example, that sometimes chas v'shalom it can happen to a person. But by the Eibishter's tamid, that's always, and even by a person, it's only that it gets a little covered up, not bad. I think so. And the same is also b'avodas Hashem. Hine b'pchenas mitzcha shechitzayne yisaratzen b'litam. So now let's go back to the metzach. By a human being, the metzach is what? What did we learn earlier? What's the metzach? The metzach is the determination. It's when you have the ratzin, but your das has kind of already what? Expired. The seichel has expired. Rak mirishimu, what's left over? A trace. Shanishar achar atfila, after davening. Mizboinenus bina v'das, from the hizboinenus, from the contemplation, the bina and the das. Shahoya loy b'shas atfila, that a person had before davening. Now, the internal das experience is what? Is going to expire. But what's interesting is that this stubborn ratzon that's on the metzach, even though it's chitzonius, it's rooted in this higher ratzon. Why? Because it's tamid, it's consistent. The ratzon pnimi is a more pnimiistic gilui on nefesh. That's sometimes there, sometimes it's not there. But this ratzon what we call the chitzonius of it, is really, like in Chassidus it explains that even though Netzach is a very dry experience as opposed to Chesed, Chesed is when you're filled with love to someone. Netzach is you made a commitment, I'm going to keep my commitment. Yet it says that Dafka Netzach is rooted deeper in Pnimius HaNefesh than the love, than the other midas. That's why we find that when a person has Netzach, it's a desire for victory and to win and perseverance, they'll fight like crazy just to win. Metzach is what? And so just like it is by Netzach, the same is also by Metzach, which is the chitzonius of the das. It's rooted somewhere very, very deep in a place where what? Where there's consistency. Tamid is not shaykh and he changes. The whole day. Even though the person is not contemplating. And even when the person is involved, meaning not only you're not contemplating godliness, but you're still learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, but even when a person is stepping out of the Beis Medrash, and he's going what? He's going his own worldly way. His Torah should be keva. What's keva? Permanent. You're doing your work, but you're doing it with such secondariness. Because where is your ratzon? Even if it's lacking the pnimius illumination of this, but where is your ratzon? Where did you put you hammered in a nail? That's it. You basically after davening hammered in a nail. That my ratzon today is only for Elokus. That means that everything I'm going to do has to be l'kavanah l'shem shamayim. His main intention is kadei sheyeh panai lasik b'Torah. What does he do business? He should be able to have time to learn Torah, or lispalel and to daven. And this is his kavanah in all of his doings. That he should be always l'ratzei l'fnei Hashem. This is all through Moshe, who makes that tzitz. That it should be tamid l'ratzain. It seems like interesting. It seems like this real. I'm not exactly clear. Let's if you try to take this whole thing together again. It seems like because of the gilui of havaya that's on that tzitz. Which havaya? The havaya d'liela. That's what gives it. That's what really makes the tzitz the most reliable element in a person's life. That your Yiddishkeit does not. By the way, it's so interesting that Monday night, if you remember the Monday night class, I discussed that there's two lamps. There's Aaron. Aaron is me'erev ad boiker, and Moshe Rabbeinu is lahalis neir tamid. Consistency. Because Moshe Rabbeinu introduces the bittul, and the bittul never changes. Or madregov never changes. It's mamish consistent on the Monday class with what we're learning over here on this. That Moshe Rabbeinu brings you that belief shinoi. So he's megala this rotzen lifnei havaya on the tzitz. That havaya that's on the tzitz. And that's what's there. That's al metzach. Where do you put the tzitz? Dafka on the metzach, because the metzach is where it's nizgala. If this part of your nefesh, where is nizgala? This. Where does it reveal itself? This consistency, this determination, this non-wavering, this. Like this, a person's mood is constantly changing. Your love, your external love, you daven, you're excited. You go away, you focus on something else, it will go away. But you need, on which part? On your metzach. What's your metzach? Your metzach is your determination after davening that what? That this is what my day is going to be all about. Okay, but stoifkel, so if you're a human, so you don't know if it's going to last. When you have Moshe Rabbeinu bringing Kodesh Havaya into the tzitz, it empowers the metzach. That what? It should be tamid l'ratzain. That the yid should always be tamid l'ratzain l'fnei Hashem, involved in the Eibishter's ratzin. And that will also cause the Eibishter on his end, also tamid l'ratzain, reflecting both ways. V'hainu adei Moshe shu oisat tzitz, li'is tamid l'ratzain al b'chinas mitzvah. Ki Moshe hu mebchinas adas. Moshe is das. V'hu mamshich mebchinas rava de kol ravin. And das is what's mamshich, the will of all wills, bibchenas mitzcha. In the metzach, hamachavin keneged moicha. What's the relationship with das, with the raiva de kol raivin? What's this connection? So I think it's very. I mean, I haven't seen this, but it probably makes sense. Since das means you yourself being present, chachma and bina are your koiches. What's das? Das is not a koyach. Das is the very you. You have a lot of koiches hanefesh, but the das is, are you showing up to it, or is it just your koiches working? When a person is present with das, means you're here, you showed up, you bring your entire self there. That might make sense that the dafka, the das, is oile to the ratzain of all ritzainis, because what's the ratzain of all ritzainis? That's also the very you. That's where that will drive. It's a level so essential to the person himself. It's not a particular koyach in the person. A specific ratzin is already a specific inyan in you. But the ratzin of all ritzainis, that's the very you. Since Moshe is das, Moshe is megala, the ratzin of all ritzainis. That's what it says. That's where atik is revealed. Every nefesh has this bechina of Moshe. He's one of the echad hamiyuchad. He's not stam one. He's the one of the 7 royim. But where is the tzitz actually put, even though Moshe is the one who creates the tzitz, and he's the one who brings the havaya d'liela, he's the only one who can make it. It's an Aaron's forehead. Ki Aaron hu avarabba, because Aaron is the great love. Ubebchinas metzach shaboy, and in the metzach of Aaron, here's the thing: if you don't feel avarabba, if you're never activating the avarabba, then you don't really have a metzach. What's the metzach? The metzach is the determination that came to you as a result of what? Of this deep connection you had during davening. Basically what I'm saying is that you can't... The metzach is the tail end of something deeper. It doesn't... There is such a thing called Kabbalah Soil in Yiddishkeit. You just have Kabbalah Soil. That's not what he's talking about over here. Talking about over here a very, very deep, internal, pneumistic experience of a powerful bonding that you had with God. But you want to make sure that this inyan doesn't just, it's not a one-time flare-up, but it's something that is consistent in your life. That's when you have the metzach. The metzach, as you said earlier, the metzach is the skull of the das. But there has to be the das first. So that's why. Aaron is the avarabba. This avarabba gives you a what? A metzach. What's the metzach? The metzach is the haskama. That what? The haskama that what? That I'm going to live consistent by it. Okay, but who gives the koyach to that haskama for it to really be there and not be blocked by Amalek? So that's where you have the koyach of Moshe, who's mamshich the das into Aaron to empower this das to be able to be consistent and to be tamid l'rotz. Ubechol is very much like Aaron who avarabba b'chinas metzach shaboy shu askama nimshach ma'ava sham tzarich liyasat tzitz she yitamid l'rotzain b'li shinuyim without any fluctuations, without checking out, but consistent. Ma'ashenkin b'Moshe atzmai, and Moshe himself ain't tzarich lazeh. You don't need this. Ki Moshe malagav, because Moshe is the inside. Shu adas atzmai, which is the das himself. Shu b'chinas pnimius. Alkein l'shayach loimen al zeh b'chinas heskim. V'chitzonius, v'rotzen, ki b'chinas das v'chefetz. When you have das, which is Moshe, then you don't have rotzen. You have chefetz. What's the difference between rotzen and chefetz? Rotzen is a will. Chayfetz is a pleasurable will. When you have a pleasurable will, you don't need this whole... It's only when there's will and there's lacking pleasure, and it's just will, that's where you need a certain empowerment that will shouldn't. Chayfetz is higher than Ratzin. It seems like, even though Moshe Rabbeinu is so much deeper, it's shaykh to pnimiyus haneshama. It's not shaykh to daily experience, to daily being. You can't live in Moshe's. Besides Moshe, you can't live in that. Even though every yid has it, it's not in the operational realm. Aaron is where we operate. We can operate in. We can operate in Avarabba and in Ratzin that comes from it. But we spice it up with a little bit of Moshe. That's the point. You you have an iskashris to a Rebbe who infuses you with that. A Rebbe himself, his entire being is chayfetz. The Rebbe is living in a desire to God that's not even a Ratzin. He's total bittul, total one with the Eibishter, total chayfetz. Chafetz Hashem banu. It's the deepest inner tainug in Elokus, pnimiyus hakeser. That's a Rebbe. We all have that deep inside, but it's too subconscious. We take a little bit of that Moshe Rabbeinu energy, and we drive it into our more external realm, where we have Avarabba coming from Aaron. The problem is the Avarabba is only during davening. After davening, the Avarabba will go away. So Aaron doesn't check out because Aaron has a forehead. That's your Metzach Aaron, that's your Haskama. Bring in a little Moshe Rabbeinu to make sure that will be all the time, especially in the time of Golus, when Amalek keeps on, is countering the Yodeas Rebbeinu. He was trying to block the Haskama of the mind to come down in the heart. So Moshe Rabbeinu keeps the thing clear, because he unclogs the clogging and so forth by doing what? Through his extreme bittul. So limud Torah, kiyum mitzvahs, which are all in a level of bittul, will allow for the haskama that you have in davening to carry you through in your Yiddishkeit all along. And Moshe is that intensity that fights Amalek. Shegam sham yesh metzach. Amalek also has a metzach. Metzach isha zayna. The metzach of a woman is zayna, which is a pasuk that says metzach. Gasus akshus b'pchinas yesh. Just like there is, what's the metzach? Metzach is the stubbornness, that the way you decided by davening, so will be the same. Klippa also has a metzach. It's when a person makes a decision to be a klippa. A person can make a decision to be a klippa. That no matter what, I'm a klippa. Even if you're going to show me all the room, I'm still a klippa. That's a real klippa. That's Amalek. So that klippa of Amalek, and therefore the metzach of Amalek contradicts the metzach of Aaron, because that's where you need something deeper than the metzach, and that's the tzitz put on the metzach, the havaya, the gili of rotzen sheba rotzen, and that's what empowers the. And the tzitz of Moshe is mevatel the metzach of the klipa. Metzach to metzach can chutzpah to chutzpah. You know what I'm saying? It can clash, but you need to have something deeper yet. V'nosa Aaron, and as a result of this, v'nosa Aaron as avoyna kodeshim. Aaron will carry the sin of the kodeshim. And because from this level, especially from the havaya that's on the tzitz, which is on top of kodesh lamed, b'chenas noisa avoin. From there, all sins are forgiven. Ukanal, the shem havaya shebetzitz, hu l'maylam b'chenas kodesh lamed. It's higher than kodesh lamed. What's kodesh lamed? Torah mitzvahs. So that's why it's noisa avoin. Any kind of pagamin Torah mitzvahs is forgiven from the havaya, lifnei havaya. Just like Yom Kippur forgives. How does Yom Kippur forgive? Because you reach lifnei havaya, higher than Torah mitzvahs. So here too, on the tzitz from the havaya d'liel, it's noisa oven. Okay, v'nasa Aaron will carry. Shehem Yud Gimel Mechilin Derachmi. It's from the 13 Mechilin, or whatever that means, of Rachmi. Dahainu ha'oras havaya habeis lios kel racham v'chanon Yud Gimel Midas Arachmim Yud Gimel Tikkunei Diukna v'havaya habeis hem peyas harosh v'havaya echad hem Tikkunei harosh. I was confused. I couldn't figure out which one is the Havaya Habeis over here and which one is the Havaya Aleph. Tzitz al mitzchu mebchinas tikkun harosh, Rava de Kol Raven. The tikkun harosh seems to be the Havaya Aleph, the higher one, because that's the tzitz. Because that's Rava de Kol Raven. And Havaya Habeis and the Beis. Earlier he calls the Beis the higher one. Here he calls the Beis the lower one. These are the Peyas of the Rosh. Kenoida as it is known. V'hainu liyas havaya havaya. V'liyos atzilus esas spheros. From the higher havaya emanates the lower havaya, so that should emanate the 10 spheros. Mi yud gimel mechilin, from the 13 attributes, which we know that Chachma derives Abba Yonik b'mazel. Chachma takes from one of them, and Bina takes from the other mazel. Chachma takes from the 8th mazel, Bina takes from the 13th mazel. V'kol zanimshach al yedei tzitz. Shemamshich mebchinas Rav de Kol Rav in Keser shebekeser stima de Kol stimin. And this is what the tzitz does. It's mamshich from Rav de Kol Rav, Keser shebekeser stima de Kol stimin, and it's all through Moshe Rabbeinu, who has the power to bring out the essence of the Eibishter and plant it on his brother Aaron and give him the koyach to be megala this in every single Jew and to keep everybody tamid l'ratzei lifnei havai. Zeh one inyan. So that's an inyan of a Rebbe. This is who's Moshe. Moshe is a Rebbe. Moshe is Aaron also. It brings out this consistent desire and all that are connected to him. L'chaim. And now anybody that wants to explain this mimer to me, gesundheit. Sometimes you feel that the Indian is still way above you, and tonight is one of those nights that I feel that the Indian is still way above me. What should I do? I didn't. Should have spent at least 13. Talking about the 13 attributes, should have spent 13 hours learning it. Spent maybe 2 hours. That's not enough. Okay. Chaim, I hope at least something. Yes. Torah and mitzvahs, which enables the tefillah. That's right. He's got it all. But the only thing the Litvak doesn't have is he needs Moshe Rabbeinu. Without Moshe, you can't make the tzitz. Lifnei Havaya means before, higher and prior to the Giloi of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is his Chachma, his Midas, which is that's where Chas v'Shalom we mess things up on, and there's wire in that Giloi of Havaya, Lifnei Havaya, prior and higher than Havaya. Chachma and Bina is inside, but the Makif of Chachma and Bina. No, it's the front, the Metzach. It's Keneged, meaning opposite. So you're saying then the Keneged over here should also be, the Chachma should be on the left and the right. That could be. If we say Das, it means, it's like we say, V'yichen Shom Yisroel Neged Ahor, means opposite the middle. So, I don't know. Choliot. I made that part up anyways, it doesn't say. When I spoke about the two sides of the heads before, that part was totally made up. It just felt good while I was teaching it. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Yeah. I figured if the front makes this,